Like, we learned so much, we made fucking mistakes, even with the way we launched, with the way we were trying to acquire leads for Facebook ads. Like, we've made so many mistakes, had to pivot a lot. Only recently, last week, we pivoted again. We changed our name on Instagram to, from Blueprint Physique System, the course, to the actual Blueprint Fitness. A lot of different things. We're also in the process of coming up with tiered systems for it, so it's not just one product anymore. It's now like a 3-tier system. So there's been an awful lot of pivoting, and we learned so many lessons. Like, we thought, one of the biggest things was we were maybe too ambitious, or we thought things would go better than they would quicker.
Don't we all?
Yeah, and we did, and so we're in the process of fleshing a lot of that out. But to be honest, it gave the two of us, I wouldn't say at a time when we didn't have a tremendous amount of purpose in our life, but there was definitely a lot of, we were living in a city, we were definitely socializing a lot, we were living our lives, I guess you could say, with, I still had discipline to some degree. I always used to train 5 days a week, and stuff. But definitely we both of us wanted something to kind of give us purpose and to focus on.
Meaning,
yeah, exactly, yeah. So it came from a place of, like you said, we also, I felt like personally as well, and this answered some things for me that I felt like I could be having a bigger impact on a larger number of people with my knowledge that I have and just my life experiences and stuff in regard to fitness, and then also other stuff outside of fitness. And I felt like I could be having a bigger impact, and I didn't really. That was why I suppose I started writing a newsletter as well.
And what impacts do you want to have with the newsletter, with Blueprint Fitness? What's the impacts you want to have?
It's a good question. I don't. This probably. I don't. It might sound cliche, but I feel like I can inspire people to do better and to make positive changes in their life, mainly physically, because that's where I have a lot of my experience in. But like we all know that the physical and the mental, they're intertwined.
Yes.
So it's
the physical. When you work on your physical, it transcends a lot of other areas.
100%. So I feel like I can definitely touch a lot of people and inspire a lot of people to make a positive change in their life through fitness, just to be able to share my experiences and my maybe even just lessons that I've learned. And if it impacted 2 people, then I felt like I was doing something positive. And it wasn't like, there was no monetary gain with newsletter at all. It wasn't about that. It was just about trying to inspire change. And I know it sounds quite cliche, but it's true, like it is. And I definitely got some. It was nice when I did get some feedback from people where it was having positive impact on them.
Well, I love cliches. They're cliches for a reason. Yeah. But then if you think, so you want to inspire positive change in other people, okay?
Yes,
that's your mission. You find good meaning in that. But what does that do for you?
I think it makes me feel good about myself, or it makes me feel like it when you help someone, we'll say, without any like underlying intention, you just give to someone because you want to help. I think it makes you feel, it gives you like a feeling, just you feel good. So I think a lot of it stems back to the fact that helping other people makes me feel good. So is that a selfish endeavor?
Well, it's not selfish, because it probably comes back to that sales thing again. It's like, oh, it's sales, it's greasy, or you don't like selling stuff, or you have, the car salesman type sales thing. But like, that's if you're selling crap. If you're selling a product that you know and that you believe in, and that you know helps people live a happier, better life and see more of the best within themselves, then why would you feel guilty about any pleasure or sense of accomplishment you derive from that? It's mutually beneficial, basically.
Yeah. I'm just internalizing.
Guten Tag, meine Freundin. So, hello everyone from Berlin. This is a very special day. This is podcast number 1. And this one I had with my closest friend, or one of my closest friends for the last 10-15 years, Cian Brennan. So with my first ever podcast, what I wanted to do was go with something a little bit just smooth sailing. And whenever I talk to Cian, I know very, very well that we'll never be stuck for things to talk about. So the topic of this first podcast is simply the last 10 years of 100% and the last 10-year journey of me and Cian throughout that time period, how we became personal trainers. So we cover in this very, very wide-ranging podcast how Cian started lifting weights. We cover how he became a personal trainer and how I became a personal trainer. We discuss how our journeys as personal trainer intermingled and how he helped 100% become the gym it is today, and what he learned from working at 100%, what I learned from working with Cian and throughout his bodybuilding preps. We also talk about what qualifications he got to become a personal trainer, what success means for him, how he wants to have a lasting impact on the people he works with, and what he finds meaningful about personal training. We really cover an awful lot. His trip to Canada, how he made that decision and how he decided to leave Ireland, which is a very, very difficult decision for anyone who's went traveling. I'm just after making the same decision myself. So that's very, very interesting. We also cover his recent decision to move to Saudi Arabia. So I absolutely loved this podcast. I know there's many, many valuable lessons in it. It's very casual. It's not actually about the nuts and bolts of how to get in shape or about being a personal trainer. It's more about our life in the last 10 years and how we got from being just two kids leaving school at 17, 18 years old to become personal trainers and living a life on our own terms, very, very much so, where we get to do what we love every day. And we talk about that an awful lot in the podcast. We get to do what we love every day. And that is a message I would love to get across in so many of the podcasts that I'm going to do. So finally, before we start today's podcast, this is the only advertisement you'll be seeing on this podcast or hearing on this podcast. So you might be wondering, I'm traveling for this year, and you might be wondering how I keep going. How do I make money? Well, very simply, I'm bad at advertising it, but I do online coaching. So my online coaching includes 2 video calls per week, and they often end up being like a lot of the discussions that you're going to hear in these podcasts. So we talk about obvious stuff like your program, your sets and reps, your nutrition, and all the education about the human body and about nutrition that comes with that. That's the obvious stuff. But I also take huge pride in how much I help people's mindsets when it's to do with fitness. So any one of my clients will talk about how much I go over their mindset and how I teach them how to use 80-20 in action in fitness and health, how I teach them about the differences between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. I teach them how to apply incremental gains or incremental improvements, and I ultimately teach them as well how to take complete ownership or complete responsibility for your health instead of feeling very, very helpless. So no, I'm not a life coach. I'm a personal trainer, and this is an online coaching service that is of the highest quality. So I'm very, very proud of it. And that's how I make my money while I'm traveling. So if you are interested in that, simply send me an email or any of my social medias. You can just send me a direct message there. So without any further ado, this is podcast 1. Just bear in mind, it is my first ever podcast. I am a little bit nervous if I'm cutting across too much or if we go off on tangents a little bit too much. So I won't go on any further. I'll jump into the podcast, and this is 10 years of being a personal trainer with Cian Brennan. 3, 2, 1. Podcast 1. We're live.
We're live. Or we're live.
So you're drinking a bit of coffee, first of all.
Yeah.
You don't drink much coffee?
No, I don't, to be honest. What I do is I have Monster. That's my caffeine fix. I had Monster because I usually have it with my first meal of the day before I train. So I had that already as a routine. And now I'm going to have my coffee, my second hit of caffeine. So I'm going to be fairly caffeinated.
Adrenals buzzing.
Adrenals buzzing. Yeah. No, I probably will definitely.
I never got into the whole monster thing. I love the coffee, but I never got into the monster thing. I think from my functional medicine background, as in my interest in that, not my actual qualification. I just, the processedness of those drinks doesn't get to me. Do you know what I mean? Coffee is in straight out of the plant job.
I do, and look, I've been having Monster consistently, like every fucking week, most days of the week for the last so the damage is done.
Yeah. If there is any hypothetical damage, the Lane Nortons of the world will tell you there isn't.
Yeah. Look, if they can get those drinks tasting as good as they do, with as little calories as they do, they're doing something.
Yeah.
Do you know? But to be honest, even I don't have Monster for. It's not really even caffeine. I don't get much of a caffeine buzz on.
You just like the little satisfying.
I like the taste, exactly. With my meal, the palate of that meal that I have.
Of course, yeah. That's the same with me with the coffee. I actually just love the taste of black coffee. It's an acquired taste. Red wine is the same. And
whiskey? No, they say that for whiskey as well.
I haven't got it with whiskey yet, but I definitely get it with red wine. So this is podcast 1, and the goal of the podcast, I suppose, is to try and promote a few things in the same way that the podcasts I've listened to over the last number of years.
Which is many.
Yeah.
In the thousands, I would say.
Yeah, which is many. To promote certain things the way they've been promoted in me. It's pretty crazy how influential they've been on me and you and Dave and Brendan.
And Lynch,
our mates. So one of the main things I want to promote is taking a chance, entrepreneurially, but just taking a chance in general, just taking a risk. I think life begins when you take a risk, and to take a risk you need a bit of encouragement. I don't think anyone, no matter who they are, goes and takes risks without a bit of encouragement, whether that comes from a YouTube video, a podcast, and if they're lucky enough, someone in real life will encourage them to take that bit of a chance. So entrepreneurially, but just in general, taking a bit of a risk, doing something a bit mad, a bit outside the box. I think that's where life begins. All the good things in my life have happened through that. So that's one thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're no stranger to that.
Yeah.
Theme at all.
Just fuck it and take a chance type thing.
And doing something that's outside the box.
Yeah. And then along with that, obviously then promoting physical challenges. Extreme, inverted commas, physical challenges, I think personally aren't actually that as hard as they're cracked up to be. Do you know, I don't think getting a 6-pack, growing your glutes, growing your biceps, looking good on the beach, I don't think that's anything near as difficult as what people perceive it to be. So to go through the nuts and bolts of that would be a second thing I'd like to promote. So taking a risk entrepreneurially, but just in general, and along with promoting healthy physical challenges like marathons, getting really strong, gymnastic stuff, flexibility stuff, all these different things that will contribute to your general wellness or your performance in any sport. That would be 2 of the main things I'm going to try and promote, and I think that's what I've done all my life anyways. So it's just getting it in podcast format. Yeah,
so it's out there. It's not systemized in a way, but it's out there for people to consume and digest, because they'll be able to, like, if you think about the people that you interact with on a daily basis, and you pass off this knowledge and everything that you've learned, they obviously take huge benefit from it.
Exactly.
So at least if you can bring that to
if they didn't take benefit from it, they wouldn't pay money for it.
Yeah, you'd be out of business.
Exactly. Yeah.
Long time ago.
So with what I often give good team talks to the football teams I'm coaching. I'm 12 years coaching now. And I'm often thinking, geez, I'd love to have that on a podcast or on a YouTube video, do you know? Because I cover like a story to give them a backdrop into a certain game. People might say it's a motivational talk, but it's not really like firing them up. It's often just as calm and as mildly spoken as we are right now.
But it is firing them up.
But it's impactful.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And that'd be the football type ones. And then there's a conversation with clients, you know, that have just, the conversations we've had, I know you are the same here, with clients have been some of the best conversations I've ever had with anyone in my life, you know? And to cross over between those good conversations, those good public speaking from coaching, from a bit of public speaking I've done, from the bit of coaching I've done for the last 12 years, I've been practicing public speaking in front of 30 people 3 times a week for 12 years, and then the one-on-one DMCs with clients and friends, to get that on camera, and not to try and say, oh, everyone should think this way, make up your own mind about it, but just to get it on camera and to put it out there.
Well, yeah, I think it's people will be able to draw a lot of benefits from it. I know myself personally from having a lot of conversations with you, whether it was when you were my coach when I was like 16 or 15, 16, right through to working in the gym, just being friends and having those conversations. I've definitely benefited and learned a tremendous amount. Yeah.
And we haven't always agreed on them. We've clashed a lot on them.
Yeah. This is the beauty of, you know, having the dialogue. You know?
But it's not. It's a lecture if I'm just telling you what to do and you're just fucking taking it on, whatever. But it's a conversation if there's interaction.
Yeah.
And the dialogue and the interaction and the confrontation, I suppose, the way we converse is usually quite confrontational, our group of friends, but in a friendly manner, if that makes sense. It's almost like 2 close rivals, football rivals, going absolutely at it, hammer and tongs, and having good respect for each other.
Exactly, the respect is there.
Yes, even if you disagree, or even if you I was about to say want the other team to lose, but it's not that I want you to lose, it's that I want you to change your thinking. Now, that what you just mentioned there brings it in nicely. So what I want to cover in this podcast specifically is the last 10 years, how we got here. You know, not too specifics in terms of like what to eat or how to train or whatever, but just how we ended up here from 10 years ago, because the gym is open 10 years next summer.
Insane.
It's insane, isn't it?
Oh my god.
10 years next summer.
Damn, that's insane.
And I started PTing people about 2 years before that, sometimes in their kitchen.
That would be a good place to start. Like, how did you start?
I started PTing some people in the old Garrymore gym.
Okay, so we're talking about 2011 here?
Yeah, 2011, 2012. I was in college and I just wasn't happy.
Yep.
But that's a story for a different day, how I dropped out of college.
Okay.
So we just took off out of college, fuck this, and started opening up the gym, because I had been doing a little bit of one-on-one PT with people in the kind of Clamars area, in the GA gym in Clamars, in the GA gym in Garrymore, and kind of their own little bit of home equipment.
I'm actually interested genuinely. What inspired you to do that back then, around here, like being a trainer, a physical trainer, personal trainer, or a strength coach wasn't necessarily a thing?
It was unheard of.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
But where did the inspiration come from? And
we're mid-recession at this time.
Okay.
Mid-recession.
Celtic Tiger job? Or?
No, after the recession.
Okay.
Celtic Tiger was before
the
recession. Yeah. After the 2008 financial crisis.
Yes.
So I was doing a lot of training myself, gym work, and people started asking me, what are you doing?
Okay, so they were asking you.
Yes, the classic, it's like you're
jacked.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. It's like, I'm sure, I was talking to Tom Delaney last week, I'm sure it's like him with the baskets. He's probably making the baskets for himself. And people are asking, what are you doing? Can I buy one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually, an awful lot of businesses, particularly small businesses, start off that way. You're doing it for yourself, and someone asks, would you do it for me?
Mm-hmm.
So I started training people now. I think I was charging €10 for a session, and maybe an hour. And
wait, what's that now with inflation?
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's actually more back then than it is now. But I was charging like €10 per session, and people kept coming asking me. I was working in Hanley's bar at the time.
Yep.
A good few of them were people who drank in there. Would you train me, or would you do?
Yeah.
And a couple of them done really well. One fella lost 2 stone, and I just had this idea that, look, I was doing GBC type strength training, German body cop, full body, very similar to what I do to this day.
Crazy.
And what gets the results.
Because it works.
Yeah, exactly. And I was doing that with your team in under 16, And then you went playing soccer, but I was still doing it with them in minor. And I was like, geez, wouldn't it be cool to have a gym where people paid to do this? Do you know? And they could do the exact same training as I'm doing here that everyone is loving. Just I could own the gym.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. But take me back about the same time with you when I coached you in under 16. I remember talking to you about this. This is bringing it right back now. It might have been Clonmar's Leisure Centre. But you had started lifting weights long before it was common for anyone your age to do it.
Yeah.
Of course, there was some people doing it, but it was very, very rare. You had started lifting weights.
Yeah, I did. I suppose not to get too into it, but it was basically because growing up I was always very skinny and small, just slight.
As was I.
Yeah.
I still am.
Yeah, like a lot of people can probably relate to this. And I was playing soccer at a pretty high level, and I got into the last 32 of a cut to make an Irish squad to go to Qatar. I would have been 13 or 14 at the time, and basically I was told at the time that technically I had all the skill and the ability, but I was just physically I wasn't up to it. I would get pushed around, and just at that time a lot of these players were they're early bloomers. A lot of these guys were big and strong, 13, 14,
of course.
crazy like.
Of course.
And I was just
like any sport, really.
Yeah, you've got the guys who I suppose are the elites, genetic elites who are
developed faster than
exactly. And I was definitely a slow developer. So anyway, I didn't make the last cut to go away on that trip. It was like 20, cut it from 32 to 24. And basically then from there, when the feedback from the coach that I got was that I needed to get stronger. So I started doing some research, looking what could I do, and I started with the whole like working on my core, doing some core work. So out in my landing every night, doing planking, push-ups, sit-ups before bed. Then progressed, got myself a chin-up bar and started doing some chin-ups and stuff. And that was my initial motivation to start doing, because I wanted to succeed in soccer. I wanted to become a professional. So I thought this was the roadblock to me achieving the success.
Yes.
And then fast forward to, so I did that, kind of kept with that stuff for maybe a year or so. And then when I was maybe 15, I want to say, maybe 16, I went to a local guy in the leisure centre, Ian McWalter, who's now a coach out in Vancouver.
Yes.
And he was like he had a Polycum background, and he basically gave my first ever training program. I paid him. Remember, I paid him for the program. It's like €50, and I also paid him €50 for the tub of protein he was getting me as well.
Oh, on the black market.
On the black market. So there must have been, or maybe I paid him 55. And the
markup.
Yeah, he was getting the fibre
cut.
Yeah, exactly. Which.
For securing the bag.
It's dead right. But anyway, and I followed that, and that was a really, just an upper body, lower body, simple enough training split. And I belted away with that myself for a couple of months and made a shitload of progress. And that was kind of my introduction. So I think I would have been like 15. And then obviously I started seeing the benefit in relation to my sport. I grew a little bit, but I started to fill out more.
That was a little bit after I would have got my first training program from Cian Griffith. It was a few months after that, wasn't it?
Yeah, so...
Did you ask Cian Griffith first or something? He wasn't around and he sent you Mike Walter's number. Wasn't there something like that?
Oh, Jesus. Was there me?
I think it was, yeah. I think I sent you Cian Griffith. But anyway, Cian Griffith and Alan Feely would have been the first two showing me, really.
Mm-hmm.
And Enda Varley, a small bit, just by chance.
Mm-hmm.
Worked with him in Elvery's. Worked with him in Danny's up in Costcutter in Ballantyne. I did, yeah. Didn't work too hard or anything, but it was only about a week. It was a work experience.
Okay.
And then I met him out in Garrymore a couple of times, and it might have only been like a few minute encounters. But you know, when you're that age and you're impressionable, you're taking in everything, especially when they're bigger and stronger than you.
Yeah,
you know?
of course.
Which I've been very conscious of, trying to be that type of influence for as many young people as I can.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep.
Especially when I see that those opportunities to learn were few and far between when we were young, but which isn't that long ago. They're so numerous now. They're nearly too numerous. You can nearly learn too much.
Yeah, it's too much information.
Yeah. So we start the gym. I'd say I start the gym years 1, 2, and 3, and I remember Viv saying to me, you actually got a very good leaving cert, which isn't common in the personal training world, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So you got a very good leaving cert, but you never had any interest or drive at all to go to college. Which again is a little unusual, you know. I
had an interest in doing something in the sports science realm, to be honest. That was kind of like my idea, but even though I didn't really know what that would entail, but I knew that I was interested in
Sports performance.
In sports and performance, and didn't know how to get a career out of it, but that's what I was interested in, and I was pursuing a soccer career at the time, so I decided that okay, I'll take a year out, defer what course that I got offered. I actually got offered something in Carlow that was very similar. Yeah, it was like sports science of some sort. I deferred it for a year, and I thought I'm going to give the soccer a crack for 1 year, like one final year playing in the under-19s, and then I'll decide on going to college. But in that year was when I did another little course just while I was off pursuing soccer. I did a gym instruction degree course, if you want to say. And also, though, to be honest, like I was heavily influenced by you. Like I had a conversation with you, and I had said that I was interested in going and doing either strength and conditioning or sports science in university, and you were kind of like, like you've always done throughout all the years. You've always been very honest and direct and no kind of bullshit. And you were like, and logical as well. You were like, look, like you can go and do that for 3 or 4 years, pay all the money, but you could also go and do a PICP 1 and 2 in a quarter of the time, a quarter of the price, and start working with people from a younger age.
And better knowledge.
Exactly. And when you put that towards me, I had to think about it, and I was just like, he's fucking dead right. That makes a lot of sense, like from a logical standpoint. And I never, for me personally, from a young age, I always thought I was going to be a professional soccer player. So I never really had these visions of me ever being in college. I never thought that was going to be my path. Although I was like thinking about it and definitely considering it. So then when we had that conversation, or it was probably multiple conversations, I didn't make it with the soccer, and I decided, okay, going to university is not the right option. Doing the PICP and going that route was definitely the right option. So you definitely, like, you heavily influenced my decision there.
So yours was more out of logic.
Yes.
Mine, obviously there was some logic there, but my quitting college, it was like, and doing this, opening the gym was an act of rebellion more than anything. It was like, fuck this, college was just liberal arts. I didn't hate it or anything, but it was like, there was nothing inspiring about it, and nothing like challenging or risk taking, to bring it back to that, about it. Then there was the football. I did not have a good time in my home GA club. No one really does, let's be honest. It's your home GA club too. It's not as if anyone else was having a great time or has been having a great time since. Yeah. So it's just like, fuck that. And then the football coaching, it was just like, I'm good at this. I could tell pretty early I was good at this, and I want to do it full time. And then some life things happened that I'll talk about in the documentary. I'll be out a little bit before this podcast. So I was seeing like, okay, you could die tomorrow, I came to that realization. I didn't come up with that realization. It's a very, very old Stoic realization. But you could die tomorrow. You can't waste time doing what you shouldn't be doing, or you have no passion for. It's like you could be doing everything right and you could die tomorrow. And I asked myself those questions. And I was listening to, do you remember YouTube used to be class back in the day, old school YouTube for like motivational videos? Do you remember Hip Hop Preacher and Arnold's 6 Rules of Success? And,
you both get to the top with your hands in your pockets. We both climbed the ladder of success.
Yeah. So good. But like I've often went back to that video as in like, it's brilliant. Those 6 rules of success, they're so bro and so simple, but they're so profound.
That's our philosophy, working bro and simple.
Yeah.
You just
so I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do what I want to do, and that's it. And I was very, very lucky that I got for great support from my family. And mom was like sketchy.
Yeah, I was gonna say there definitely would have been a bit of skepticism.
Oh yeah, like just finished the last year of college. I hadn't failed any exams, just finished the last year of college. But I was like, no, I have to do it now. It's making me miserable going to college. And the funny thing is, it wasn't making me miserable because I hated the course. I was actually very interested in history and English, and I still am.
Yeah.
It was just the whole kind of structure of it. That you were kind of this cog in a wheel, another brick in the wall type thing,
Yeah.
Pink Floyd job. Like you're just like what is the point in this? Like, this is, and what I remember clearly articulating to Dad, and maybe Mom was there too, but Dad and Brendan were definitely there. I was like, if you want to be successful in anything, right? Saying this right before I opened the gym, you have to do something a little bit different to the way everyone else is doing it. Mm-hmm. So you either do something different or you do the same as everyone else is doing, but better. But if you want to be more successful than other people or have success for yourself, you can't just do what everyone else is doing.
Of course. By
definition, you just cannot be successful by doing the same as what everyone else is doing. So that was clear to me when it wasn't clear to many other people.
Why do you think that was?
I suppose just life experiences. Like I could see through the coaching as well, to the football, like that was unbelievably character building and influential. Mm-hmm. The coaching football teams, and it has been every single year since. As stressful as it is, but you could see very, very clearly in the coaching. You're like, okay, it's think on your feet here, adapt or die. Do you know? Mm-hmm. You can have this ideology. Oh, I think the game should be played this way. That is a load of bollocks. Because when the rubber meets the road and you're up against another team, your ideology goes out the window when they're fucking hammering you because you have this ideology. You know, that it just doesn't add up. You have to adapt and you have to meet reality head on and you have to adapt your plans around reality. You know, it doesn't mean you have to abandon your core principles. It just means you have to be realistic and do things that actually worked. And one of the things that I was very aware of was you have to do things differently. If you don't do them differently, you can't be different to anyone else. You know, and different doesn't always mean better, but better is always different.
Okay, yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
So that was, and then years once so you came and you really wanted to work in the gym, but it was kind of a, you know, you're kind of fucking pricking around really and helping me take the classes and taking half the group and things like that. But I wasn't paying you because I could barely fucking afford to pay myself. So what made you want to come to the gym despite, so we did the good leaving cert. Viv pulled me aside one time and said you were very interested in what I was doing and you'd love to fucking be a part of it. I just felt like I couldn't pay it, you know, because I was still in the infancy of the business, didn't have a clue how to run a business. So paying a second person when I could barely fucking, you know, put bread on the table. So when I could barely, when I was living at home and trying to save up to buy equipment and, you know, I was like, I just couldn't pay anyone. It's couldn't pay you or Brendan who were doing all the helping at that stage. So you left after about a year and went to Aldi in America, didn't you?
Yeah, so I suppose...
How long was that? Was that a year, 2 years?
Timelines are definitely a bit hazy, but I suppose when I was up there and I was in that environment and I saw what you were doing with clients and I saw what you were, I suppose I wouldn't be quite the visionary now as you would.
We used to joke I was Steve Jobs and you were Wozniak.
Yeah.
You'd be the graft.
Yeah.
I'd be just
the creative, the orchestrator, the creative inspiration. But I could see though that you were onto something.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, and I really just I enjoyed the environment. I enjoyed.
Just to pull you up there, sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
it is funny that you say you could see I was on something, right? Mm-hmm. Because I always felt like I was on something, and I think you always felt the exact same thing, but we didn't know what we were onto because there was no roadmap as in we're going to do this year or this next month or this we completely made it up on the fly.
Yeah.
Like you were a big part of anything I made up on the fly. And even though we knew we were onto something, I think that's what daunts a lot of people starting a business or taking that risk. They think they have to see, oh, this is where it's start, middle, end, this is where it's going to end up. I didn't have a clue at any stage where anything was going. I just wanted to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, I think, what would you say though, that it had something to do with the fact that we were doing something that we thoroughly enjoyed doing, and we were definitely passionate about what we were doing, and we were very interested in it.
Mm.
Like, did that allow us to be able to not put the cart before the horse? Where like
it did. Well, I had the gym open for 7 years, €0 saved, right, and living at home. So that was like, obviously it's different now, just two and a half years later. But when you put it that way, like how many people have quit in year 3, 4, 5 when it was all just about to hit that tipping point, you know, which it has for us in the last couple of years.
I think another thing maybe that for me why I liked the idea, again similar to yourself, and I've thought about this a good bit, I've always felt a little bit different to a lot of other people in the way that convention has never really been something that I've never done the conventional, and I don't think it's out of a rebellious thing for me. I think it's more so I think about things I'm a bit quite logical and rational, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't see like going to university for the sake of it, or doing this, or doing something that I hate or that I'm depressed about for my long term or for my future. That stuff never appealed to me. I always felt like, okay, I need to do what's best for me. And I suppose being in the environment in the gym and not really having like a specific like boss or someone telling me what to do, or and it was unconventional at the time, but that really appealed to me, you know.
Yeah. And well, see, the thing is, that's a very good point you're bringing up, right? And again, it comes back to the core message I'm going to try and get across in every podcast. You know, you could see by thinking a little differently that was going to be a good thing, or it was a bit more exciting. I think if you sat 9 out of 10 people down in a room, they'd agree with you. But it's getting them to take that action and actually go with something that's a bit against the grain, that might earn them less money in the short term, or not have the security of a more permanent job, or things like that. You know, I think a lot of people would agree and think the same as me or you did. We were lucky, we fell into something very, very early we could take a chance on. I think there's more people out there who could take a chance on something and want to take a chance on something, but just they think they need to see so much more than they actually do starting off.
Yeah, look, we obviously had a decent foresight, and we were able to have a sense of, like you made a point there, of a bit of delayed gratification, that I'm not necessarily, this isn't going to be the most beneficial for me in the short term, but if I believe in the vision and whatever that vision is in the long term, it's going to be like, yeah, how we were able to just commit to that. Maybe it's just because we believed in what we were doing, we were happy with what we were doing, and it gave us the freedom to just go for it.
So a key point, we're moving along through this lovely, but a key point is, so you go to America because I can't pay you. You work in Aldi for a couple of months.
I went working in Aldi because I needed to make some money. So I was working there for maybe 7-8 months.
Not having a good time.
No, again, I had a boss. I had to put stuff through the till at a certain speed. If I wouldn't hit it, I had someone telling me, and I was just like, fuck you. I was like, I don't need to listen to this shit. But I understood though that that's what I had to do for then, and I put my head down and I did it. And I had no problem. I had no problem working, and that was not an issue. I wasn't lazy at all. And I was also DJing quite a lot at that time as well, making a bit of extra cash there.
You were DJing, that's right.
Yeah, I was I'd often work a full day in Aldi, go straight from finish at 10 p.m, go straight to a gig. I remember DJing, and one night I came home from DJing and went straight to the gym and worked out after at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Just being
I used to do those 11, 12 o'clock sessions at night. Do you remember that too?
Yeah. What were we thinking?
I know.
Pure madness.
Pure madness is right.
Yeah, but anyway, long story short then, I finished up in Aldi, and I was only 19 at the time, and your brother, my good friend Brendan, was out in America on a bit of a J1 type scenario, and I'd been talking to him a couple times on the phone, and I just said, you know what, fuck this. I haven't ever really travelled, gotten outside of, lived away from home. So I went out there on a 3-month fucking holiday visa, did a bit of work while I was out there, a bit of painting or whatnot, but I had a crazy life experience. Just opened my eyes to just the world and what's out there and how sheltered we are back here, and definitely gave me an appetite to want to travel more and stuff. But anyway, I came back from there and I was left with, I kind of had 2 options. I wanted to go away again. So my plan was actually got in contact with Ian McWalter. He was in Vancouver, and I wanted to go out there as a personal trainer. But I didn't really have I just had got a qualification, but I had no real experience from doing the group training with you. That was about it. Got a good, I learned how to train clients, and I picked up a lot. You taught me a lot about the principles and just the basics, but I didn't really have any actual real life experience. And he told me going out there, it would be very hard to get a job. I'd have to go and do another qualification to work out there. So again, put my logical hat on, not being emotional about it. If I was being emotional, I would just went out there anyway and just said, you know, fuck,
Yes.
because I got a taste and an appetite for being away from home. But I said, you know what, I'm going to put my head down, I'm going to come up with a strategy to get some experience, get some people on my, like, some transformations, and build up my CV so that, you know, in 2-3 years, if I want to then move away, that I can do it and I'll be in a better position. So that's when I came back, and I pretty much thought of the idea of doing one-to-one. Started up the Facebook page, came to you and proposed it to you. And yeah, then that was like 20, I want to say it was
And
20.
that was the birth of personal training.
Yes, the transition from group training
to personal training. That was the start of it, which was your idea. I personally...
But it wasn't my one-to-one personal training. It was not my idea. It's been done for decades.
But I didn't think there would be a market for it in Claremorris.
Yeah, there wasn't at the time.
No, there wasn't. And there wasn't really a market for it in Mayo, you could say.
No, I wouldn't say.
Very little, if any. And in Galway, only a small enough market,
yeah,
for one-on-one personal training. So you say to me you want to come back and maybe do some one-on-one personal training, and I'm like, sure, it's not competing with me doing the groups, you can just work away.
Yep.
You charged a little bit more than the group, not that much more expensive, and we went in the trenches, and we just continued to do so many PT sessions. It's actually unbelievable looking back. You know, when I look back and see how many sessions, people talk about 10,000 hours or 10,000 sessions.
It's there.
I'm easily on 20,000 between the GAA coaching.
Yeah, between you, the GAA on top of that.
The GAA coaching, the group PT, and the one-on-one PT. I have 20,000 hours of coaching done easily. It's insane. At one stage, when you left for Canada and Dave left for Canada, and I was in the gym on my own, 2020, 2021.
Yep.
I went through 6 months where I was doing 50 PT sessions a week, on top of having about maybe 10 to 15 online clients. I was working, I've always worked 7 days a week.
How many clients did you have when you were doing, like, roughly one-to-one when you were doing the 50 sessions?
They would have all been on 3 or 4 sessions a week, most of them on 3.
So you had probably the 15?
Yeah, 15 one-to-ones. That's the great thing about one-on-one PTs, you don't actually need that many clients to be full, you know.
So you're working with 30, so you were working with about 30 people between online and one-to-one?
Easily, yeah. It is a lot. But I was working, it's funny, you always had, mentioned there not so long ago that you have this perception of yourself that, I wasn't lazy, I was hard working. I had the opposite perception of myself, which, true or not, it was my perception of myself. I had a very negative self-image, you know, that I was weak, that I wasn't that smart, that I was lazy. You know, for one reason or another, I picked up those through teachers, coaches, bad influences being around me. Unconsciously, I picked up that perception of myself, which was completely wrong, you know. And I've only really shed it in the last 2 years, you know. But I would have had this thing that I'm very lazy and that I'm not that hard working at all. And only when it was pointed out to me by numerous different people that, geez, you actually work awful lot of hours. You're working crazy hours here. And the people who pointed it out to me were some of the people I respect the most, you know. One of the women I worked with out in Gary Moore, 2 or 3 clients I had, people I really respected. They said, "Jesus, you're doing an awful lot of work." And that was when I realized, geez, I actually am hardworking. Do you know? Why do I think I'm so lazy or wrong? But the system, the traditional conventional system, can make a lot of people feel very stupid. Do you know? I saw actually, you might have saw that ad with Lee Keegan and Paul Cohora. They're saying the exact same thing just a couple of days ago, that they felt stupid in the conventional system. And I think a lot of young men in particular do. You know, girls too, but particularly young men. If you stick to that cut and dry path, you can feel quite stupid and quite lazy, even if you're hard working and creative.
Would you say that idea or that negative self-image that you had of yourself of not being a hard worker, it definitely drove you
lit a fire, yes,
to be like
chip on your shoulder. Yeah, absolutely. Like, a few people have said to me that they don't know anyone quite as good as me for turning negative comments or negative attacks and whatever else into positive energy and positive motivation.
You've done that with
I've done that.
Teams.
Yeah, I've done that so many times.
Turn their weakness into...
Turn weaknesses into strengths, and turn what negative comments people have said about you into fuel that you need for the fire to burn, and for you to get these extra hours done. And I have to prove this person wrong, and I have to prove that person wrong. Now, ultimately, I think what you should be doing most of your work from is a position of love, and not hate.
Mm-hmm.
But the hate is quite a motivator.
Yep.
And to think that, I think a lot of people, they let negative comments, negative experiences in the past hold them down and like drain them of energy and drain them of confidence. I might have let them get to me in the opposite. I got so angry without showing the anger, bottled it up and just used it as, okay, work more hours.
Yeah, we do that as men a lot, don't
we? We do. And I think the first step in using that to its full potential is actually realizing that you do it in the first place.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do it without even realizing.
That's why they're doing it.
Yeah, and that's why they blow out with like drugs, alcohol, gambling, things like that, because they don't even realize they're doing it. At least I have some sort of conscious awareness of it, even if it's only recent. That's what I actually use. But back to the gym, just working. Like, I've worked 70, 80 hours a week between the GA coaching, the online business, and the running the business, the PT sessions and running the gym for as long as I can remember, really. The online is a relatively new thing the last 2-3 years, but just working that many hours without it feeling too much like work is the trick, isn't it?
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, if you were to say to someone, even a lot of these high-powered CEOs that work, 70, 80-hour weeks, like, a lot of the time they're quite miserable. They're everything in their life, relationships, their health, all those stuff get compromised because you could say that a lot of the time they're not necessarily happy with what they're doing. They just want to achieve. They just want to be on top, and they want to. Whereas for yourself, and similar to myself, I've never felt like work. For example, one of my clients only said to me the last day, "Oh, were you working at the week, or do you work at the weekend?" And I was kind of like, I mean, I guess so. Yeah, I was doing online calls on Sunday.
Well, we used
Sunday
to have
evening.
that's what happened with me
Sunday
as well.
during the day. And I was kind of like Saturday, I was on my laptop for a few hours, just like writing stuff. I had a lot of stuff to do, so I was like, so you work 7 days or at the weekend? And I was like, yeah, I guess I do. I was like, but to be honest, I don't really think of it as work. It's just kind of like,
what you're doing is what I used to do, was downplay it. Not really, play everything down, which again is a very classic thing to do when you're working really hard. It's just downplay. No, you're not going to blow yourself up and say, oh yeah, I'm the hardest worker ever, which is, I'm glad, something I've never done is boast or talk about, oh, I work so much, I'm the hardest worker. You don't need to do that, and you shouldn't do that. But at the same time, you shouldn't diminish your own work ethic,
Yeah, true. But like you said, it doesn't necessarily at times feel like it's work. Yeah,
agreed, 100%.
Yeah, this idea of like Monday to Friday. No, I've had that life. I've had like, we only work Monday to Friday, your weekends off. And it just hasn't felt normal for me. Like, I've always, that didn't sit right with me. I'm just like, why should it be like, why can't we
I definitely do get a little bit anxious when I'm not working.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Switching off, I find it very, very hard to switch off. I just want to work all the time because I enjoy the work, which, is a conversation for a different day. But if we go, so that takes us the first probably 4-5 years, that probably is where we are. So I just want to talk to you quickly about how did you decided not to go the sports science route of education. So who did educate you, or what courses did you do?
So I started off and did the PICP 1 and 2.
So what is PICP?
So it stands for Poliquin International Certification Program.
There we go.
So basically, it was Charles Poliquin's certification to come to be I suppose you could say to be like a strength coach and a personal trainer, like encompass both aspects of the job.
To learn the Poliquin principles, which is a very set way of doing things, and to become part of that network, because it's very much a network of coaches, very much. Even to this day, it is cult-like, and even to this day, you're about to head Saudi Arabia on the back of being a PICP coach.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is, you know.
Yeah. It's 100. It stood to me though without like.
It opens doorways that a lot of other PT certifications can't.
Yes. Because I have 2 other North American recognized PT courses, and like no one gives a fuck about them. No. They're pieces of paper, but like they alone.
PICP opens doors.
100%. This opportunity that I got, 100%. It made me stand out from the rest of the pack. Yeah, definitely.
Not because it was more expensive, not because you spent more time on it, not just because it's better. Yeah, it's better. And again, it was you who had told me about you had done it first, and then I had actually found out by Charles Poliquin, because I heard about a fella doing 10 sets of 10 for legs.
Oh my God.
And I thought this was the stupidest thing ever. How do you mean fucking 10 sets of 10 for legs? And then I asked Cian Brennan about it, and first thing he goes, oh yeah, Charles Poliquin, German volume train. And I was like, Charles Poliquin. So I went home and I looked up Charles Poliquin. This is before I even opened the gym. I must have read every single article
on the old Poliquin website.
Yeah.
So fucking good.
Yeah. It was unbelievable.
So good. I was get turned on going on. I'm not gonna lie. That was like my porn.
That was some type of Pavlovian effect from turning on the laptop, I'd say. But if you have I had Charles Poliquin's website.
Yeah.
And there was another website called Project Swole.
Yes.
Do you remember Project Swole?
Of course I do.
Yeah, it's still on the go, I think.
Is it?
It's still the same as it was back then. And I'd be in college, and all I'd be doing, this is funny, like all I'd be doing in college is looking up those websites, looking up college football.
You were obsessed.
I was obsessed with college football training.
That had a big influence on you.
Well, even the colour of the gym now is blue, white, and orange. The Florida Gators,
or
Florida Gators. Tim Tebow's thing. That's the same colour as them. Well, I wanted blue and white, but I was from Clamars. Love blue and white. Mm-hmm. It's a lovely colour of a jersey. Chelsea blue, Clamars blue, and then. But I didn't want it blue and white because I knew people from other clubs would be coming using the gym as well. So I was like, if I add another colour, and I loved the blue, white, and orange of Tim Tebow's thing, I thought that was class, and that's how the colours of the gym. Now, blue and orange just happen to be my favourite colours.
What I found out recently is those 2 colours in cinema, like they're used to offset to give the most aesthetic picture. If you watch the movie The Joker. Every shot of the Joaquin Phoenix one, every shot of every scene, you have a yellow light and a blue light, so yellowy orange in each corner of the shot, and it's like that's what gives the most aesthetic.
It's like a sunset too.
Yeah,
sunset orange molds into and fades into blue.
Yeah, there's something to those 2 colours about them being very aesthetically pleasing.
But even clothes, since I was very young, like since I was 10, 11, I remember picking out like Nike t-shirts and Holland jerseys and things like that. Holland jerseys, France jerseys, blue and orange. I always loved those colours.
Okay.
You know? So blue isn't that uncommon, but orange is quite uncommon. And the gym then, it just ended up taking shape the exact way that I had pictured it in my head.
Well, if I can just speak on that for a second, I remember when you brought me up to the unit when it was completely empty. Nothing in it.
It's a big unit.
It fucking was a big unit. But there was nothing. It was all concrete. It was still dirty. It hadn't really been swept properly. But I remember you fucking walking me through, and at the time, me thinking like, this cunt is mad. Like, as in like you were basically walking me through and showing me exactly like, okay, this is where the racks are going to be. This is where the dumbbell pit's going to be. It's going to be facing this way. There's going to be mirrors here. There's going to be this here. Like, you literally described the gym as it is now. And I, at the time, like, that blew my mind because I was just like, how does he even like know that it's going to be like that, or how can you even foresee that?
I gave that spiel to like, at least 20 people. Showed them around when the place was just concrete walls. So I had an image of that gym before I even found that building. Do you remember where me and QD used to go smoking rollies up fucking behind the CB?
Yes.
Upstairs there. I used to be in there and I'd be saying this is exactly what it looked like, be somewhere like this, and it'll be this shape and fucking.
You even said something about you were going to have. I remember about a rope hanging somewhere, whether it was going to be. Why is that still? And there was something we had in the middle of the gym, and now recently when you just got the the rope that you put yourself up for the gymnastics, there was something mad about that.
That's happened to me a lot of times where I've just had this very, very clear picture of this is what I'm going to do, and then going, doing it.
Yeah.
You do have to have that vision though. It is what drives you. You don't want to get too obsessed with the goal or the end thing, but it is very, very motivating. Like a lot of people talk about vision boards and writing things down and all that, and I do that, but definitely don't do it nearly as much as I should. And I think the reason I get away with it is because I have such a clear ability to picture things ahead of time, picture certain, like I have a very, very strong a very, very strong ability to visualize scenarios and situations and things like that. And the amount of them that have come true is just unreal, That's why with the run, with the gym and how well it's gone, I just feel like I'm not aiming big enough, Could I fucking fail at doing something even bigger and I'd still be in a better place than, picking something smaller and achieving these goals. So back to your education, you have your PICP.
Yep.
Chris Dufay, the Fat Loss Pro podcast.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Out in Marbella.
He turned out to be a scammer.
He did.
As many in the fitness industry have.
Yeah.
2 out of that course that we went to, which was at the time.
Becoming a con man is a very popular route in fitness, let's be honest.
It is.
Selling fucking snake oil,
Yeah.
Promising people the dream and delivering very, very little is very, very common in fitness, and it's an easy route to go down. Right to this day, we could switch down that route.
Oh yeah, you can sell your soul for fucking money, of course, but
short term.
Yeah, but that's never been. To be honest, I think our morals and have almost held us back to a degree at times to not be able to monetize and market ourselves.
I agree. Where does that come from? Where does your morals come from in that respect? Where you're very unwilling to promote something you don't do yourself. You're very unwilling to say something you don't believe, even if it's going to get you some short term ahead of the thing. You're very, very unwilling to lick arse, which is like a huge thing for a lot of people. When they're young, late teens, early 20s, kiss a lot of ass. It gets them ahead. I think ultimately it always ends up costing them more.
Yeah.
But it does get you ahead, and like I could write a book on the time that I couldn't kiss arse or couldn't fucking fall in line and how much trouble it got me in. But where does yours?
I don't. What is it? Something that I was born with? Is it something that was nurtured through the way I was raised?
Definitely, I'd say.
Is it something that was I've never been that religious, but when you believe, when you have faith, that it gives you some sort of like
karma type effect.
Yeah, and you believe in a higher power that if you do wrong to others, that you will, suffer. Whether it's in the afterlife.
Like Catholic guilt.
Perhaps, raised a Catholic. Or is it just something from maybe it's something to do with the way that I was raised. I mean, I guess my dad would have always he would have taught me that not to
wrong from right.
Yeah, not to be a scumbag basically. Not to be a scumbag. And don't get me wrong, it's not I think some people think sometimes that it's easy for some people to not do that, but even if you are very authentic and you don't do people, you still have that battle though.
Yeah.
It's always there. You're battling with yourself to not do it.
100%.
I think we should acknowledge that, because a lot of people that claim to have a superior morality, that it's that's just the way I am, and I would never even consider the other, which is so untrue,
Well, this is a rabbit hole I do plan on going down on the podcast.
I can see you can go back to World War II.
But I'm not going to on this particular podcast. But I will tell you, that's my firm belief, the Solzhenitsyn line, the line of good and evil runs down the middle of every man's heart. It's like the milligram experiment shows that, you know, all the studies on communism and fascism show that, as in like people have so much evil in them, it's just the thin veil of a civilized society that's holding them back from expressing that, you know. And you see glimpses of it, you know, the people who do bad things and go to jail or whatever, were they any worse, or were they just put in worse situations? All the psychology would show that they were just put in worse situations, you know, that when you are put in those bad situations, it's like 1%, 99 out of 100 people turn bad. So that's why you should always be so grateful for the blessings you do have. If someone did teach you from wrong, right? If someone did teach you not to be a scumbag or not to do people out of it for a quick buck or whatever else, because someone just like you was taught the opposite, and you know, you're no better than them really. You just got better mentors.
Yeah. And I think ultimately as well, I'd like to be able to look at myself in the mirror and respect the person that I'm looking at. So, but yeah, where it came from, probably my upbringing.
And a little bit on that too, like I said, we won't go too deep into it, but I think you've had this experience too, but I've definitely had this experience. When you're young, you think the bully is the big, strong, bad guy. You know, and you think the victim is the good person, you know, the weak fucking, oh, poor me. And then you grow up and you live a little, you know, and you learn the hard way. I certainly learned the hard way that the greasy, weak person is always the bully. You know, they're the person doing the bullying and acting the victim.
Under the guise of...
And acting the victim.
Yeah.
And then the person who's really strong, bit thick, bit straight, is usually, not always obviously, but it's usually very, very straightforward, honest, good to deal with, and just a good person, you know. That's what Jordan Peterson talks about a lot, the difference between being a nice guy and a good person. You know, I've met plenty of nice guys, you know, inverted commas, who are real nasty bullies and very conniving and sly, and I've met plenty of tough men who are really, really good people, you know, to football, business, life in general. Yeah,
that's a good distinction, because that's something I've always tried to, is just to be a good person, you know, and not like by being good, you of course, as a byproduct of that, you're nice, you know, you're nice to like people, you treat people with respect and stuff, but it's not being this, having this facade of being this nice guy, and then deep down or behind the scenes you're manipulating, like we see that so often.
Oh, and when you're a bit naive like I was, you get badly burnt by it numerous times, you know.
Yeah, I've been naive too, but I also, as I've gotten older, I've definitely gotten more. I have to become a bit more cynical.
Yes,
because.
But that's the trick, really, is to become that little bit more cynical, skeptical, trying street smart, without just becoming a negative cynic and just a pessimist. Yeah, so that's really the trick. If you can still have hope for the future and not become nihilistic despite being burnt a few times, then the world is your oyster, really, you know, because you can still see the hope and the positivity and the potential of the people you're around, and you still have the courage and the vulnerability to trust people despite knowing that they could burn you.
That's very true.
Yeah, but okay, so you learn from Chris Dufay, Phil Graham, Biggie Red, Deck Clear, they're your bodybuilding coaches. What are you picking up from them that is helping you in your personal training career and shaping your worldview, really?
So I guess the three coaches, Phil Graham, Brian Hickey and Deck, I guess I picked up
one each year of your bodybuilding, actually. I only copied that there.
2016, 2017, 2018. So I had a different coach for each year. I suppose I picked up from the training, I picked up small little things, little like tweaks to exercises, little intensity techniques, the way that they programmed sets and reps, the way they would follow schemes throughout a block of training. But I also like working with someone like Phil Graham, who was like, at the time I had this idea of him of being this very like highly accomplished coach, which he was. But still is. But what I realised was that you have this idea that he's doing something like you must be doing something special. There's
Exactly
something,
the same
there's a
diet,
secret
yeah.
sauce. But then you go and fucking do it, and you're just like, this is the basics. This is just the basics, programmed well with you know, with like,
and done consistently,
and with an idea of progressing over time, of course, like the basics. But there's nothing too magic. There's small little exercises, the way some have performed. I did definitely pick up small bits from all three of them. Even with Brian Hickey, I definitely picked up a lot of higher intensity training techniques, which I won't get into, but like as a general overview.
Well, we will get into them, just not today.
Yeah, not today. And then with Deck, I learned his approach was very methodical, very data based, and very numbers driven.
Yes.
And he taught me, I learned a lot from him in terms of like when I was to diet a client of my own, how important the actual energy balance was, and like the amount of increases or decreases I make at a certain time. I took what I learned from him and how he applied to my prep to my own clients. And one more thing, in 2016 with Phil Graham, the biggest thing that I took from him, it changed so much, was before that my idea of nutrition was very polygon, which is which you take a lot from. It's positive, where it's like good food quality, high protein, lower carb, paleo style. But what I learned from Phil Graham was that the number one important factor if you're trying to get lean or build muscle, but in this case for me it was to get lean, is energy balance. And it was the first time that I had counted calories properly and watched that I could eat anything I fucking wanted on a bodybuilding prep. I could eat a chocolate bar every day on my prep and still get absolutely shredded from once I was.
Which was new to us. We the gym 100% Fitness Health Performance, it was called back then.
FHP.
That was open for 5-6 years before we came to that realization.
So, well, yeah, maybe, what year did it open?
2013?
That was 2016. So, 3 years anyway for me when I realised, like, the penny dropped and I was like, okay, this is the missing part, because I used to fuck up with clients. I'll put my hands up, and I still say it to this day when I was young.
Well, there's no way you can be a personal trainer and not fuck up with clients. But there's a difference between fuck up and gross negligence, like fucking them up by crazy
and knowing that you're doing it, knowing that you're doing it.
Dangerous stuff, low calorie diet, it's crazy stuff.
Yeah. But where I fucked up so much was just, everyone went on low carb, and you know it worked, don't get me wrong, they got lean, but then there was a certain period it would come to where they'd plateau and you didn't really know what the fuck to do.
Yeah,
you know, that was it. You didn't really know, like, do I take away more carbs? So I can't take away any more carbs, I'm not eating any. Do I take away the 5 nuts from their breakfast? You know? So calories, it was more so the idea that they were eating healthy and they were burning energy, and that's why they were losing weight. So once I learned about calories in versus calories out, and I saw it firsthand with myself, which was probably the best way to learn, because I figured myself as lean as I ever got in my life from doing this. So I'm like, okay, I've done it, I've lived it, now I can go and teach this.
You've lived it.
I fucking lived it, yeah.
Yeah, you lived it.
So that was from them three. Like I said, the other stuff, but the biggest thing was from Phil Graham and the calories in, calories out.
Which is funny because, like, as much as we've learned from training our clients, putting our clients through this diet or that diet or this training program or that program, we've always trained so hard and so consistently ourselves.
Yeah.
From day one, no matter how busy we got, no matter how many hours in the gym we were doing, no matter how busy the week was in terms of maybe we're on holiday or we were gone to this concert or gig or anything, we went on this night out, we always trained and loved training, which is like, you know, it's we're talking about personal training today, and there will be definitely some personal trainers listening to this or want to be personal trainers. If you're not willing to train all the time, just don't go there. Do you know, there is plenty of people making money from fitness, from personal training, who don't train themselves, but generally it's, you know, some type of quick fix or fucking, you know, app or membership, and there's no passion and no skin in the game behind it, and generally it just has very, very, very suboptimal results, which is the main thing, because anyone who's going into fitness, paying for a personal trainer, paying for anything to do with fitness, a gym membership, like, you're going in for a result. You're not going in to pass the time, and you want to make sure that the person is as passionate about the way they train as they are about the way you train. You know? I remember being at the Charles Poliquin seminar with Charles Poliquin doing bioprint in Manchester. Or in Manchester and Marbella, but I asked him like 2-3 questions in this Q&A. Do you know the Q&A?
Yeah, I remember I asked him what it was.
Yeah, and I asked him, and he just kind of looked at me and said, to the whole room, answering my questions, the whole room, he's just like, guys, it's okay if you want the result more than the client wants the result. You know, I was that into, why are they not losing fat here? Why, you know, and he could just tell that I really wanted to get the good result. You know, and I've always got that off you as well, and Dave as well, and, you know, Brendan, Angela, Giz, is like, they really want the clients to do well. I think so many personal trainers, that's where they're missing. They don't really care whether the client gets results or not. They just want to look smart or look cool or look muscly, and they're not really caring whether the client gets in shape or not. Whether you can have an average program, and if you love the client and really want them to do well, they'll do way, way better than this special program or special diet where you're not actually that interested in the client.
I would go as far as saying that oftentimes we've wanted the result for our client more than they've wanted it themselves.
Yes.
Where sometimes I've had to reassess, okay, is it me who wants this for them? So I've had to even, like, from one extreme, I've had to pull myself back a little bit and be like, okay, like I literally only had a conversation last night with an online client that it was a tough conversation, but I basically had to put it to him. It was like, you know, I am getting frustrated with what's happening with you, whatever you're doing, because I want this for you so much. And I have to ask you, like, do I want this for you more than you want it for yourself? And if that's the case, then maybe we need to reassess and pull back a little bit.
Exactly, yeah. And then, so let's move it forward a little bit more now. We'll just check time.
Question for you. I have a question for you. Just did you have any qualifications when you opened the gym?
0.
like that sums up this whole thing. It's like who in their right mind would open a gym without a qualification in a conventional?
Well, it's funny actually. I'm big into like risk taking. Fuck, take a chance something. And 2 quotes I love on this are there's one Nietzsche. Big fan of Nietzsche. Big fan of Nietzsche, which is those who were dancing were thought to be insane by those who couldn't hear the music. Okay, so that can be such a brilliant quote. It's so profound. But basically, if you can hear the music and you can see that something's happening, and I can see something, and you try and explain it to maybe your family members or your friends, or you know, and they're like, "What the fuck? You know, get back to college. You know, stop being. That's just madness. You know, go the safer route. You just have to keep dancing. You know, it doesn't matter if other people think you're mental." And so many people told me to my face, said it behind my back, came back to me, "Oh, he's gonna fail, he's stupid, he's an ass, what the fuck's he doing, that gym is gonna go nowhere." You just have to keep dancing when you hear the music, and you have to go for it. And even if you fail taking the chance, it's better than succeeding playing it safe, in my opinion. You know, now there's a limit to that. Of course, it's on a spectrum. You don't want to throw away the house and the wife and kids to join the circus or anything. You know, but generally, you're not left with such a dichotomy that one is throwing your whole life away and the other is complete safety. Usually, it's somewhere a lot closer to the middle. You know.
Yep.
And the second quote on that is I forget who it is. Like Jean-Luc something or other, but it's like the man who jumps into the void owes no explanation to the people who stand and watch. Do you know? Have you heard that one before?
No, I like that though.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's very famous as well. I've came across both those quotes.
You're great for quotes.
I'm a quote merchant. But like, you do not owe. I think so many people, when they want to take that risk, they want to take that chance. That's what they're doing. They're waiting to explain it to someone who's never going to understand pre what happens. Now, once you jump into the void and you're doing what you're doing and you jump, it's working. The person who couldn't understand it at the start could be your biggest fan. It's not just the fellow who hates you and wants you to do negative I'm talking about. It could be the person who loves you more than that. It's just worries that you're about to make a mistake. But you have to jump into the void and you have to stop explaining Stop explaining. Stop. If you're explaining, you're losing. You know, you just have to just go for it, and things will work out. You can make it up on the fly.
Yeah, well, I think even just the fact that, I don't know what a lot of people have actually known, that you open the gym without a qualification. Because to the normal person, the fact that they wouldn't have the qualification in their own mind would lead them to believe that, geez, I can't start, I'm not qualified.
Now, dare I say it, maybe I'll be proven wrong here, but that was the beginning of the era where people were losing huge respect for qualifications in general. You know, so obviously you have your doctor, your accountant, your nurse, your whatever, who need to be qualified to do their job.
Of course, yeah.
But so much more of the labour force has become self-educate, move from career to career, swap jobs, where you don't actually need any type of degree. And not only is a degree sometimes not desirable, but experience is 10 times more valuable for getting your foot in the door than a degree is. So we were just entering that era, and I kind of copped that quite early, that you didn't actually, you might need a degree to be an accountant, you might need a degree to be, I don't know, an architect, but you don't even fucking want to be a personal trainer, you know? Yeah. And the funny thing is, I've been thinking about this a lot recently. A lot of my best friends, you know, I never had huge networks of friends, but a lot of my closest friends from growing up, they all ended up in sales. Okay, so like John sells technology.
He sells technology.
We'll just call him John. David sells Lamborghinis.
Cool.
Luke sells people, as in like recruitment. Yeah, he explained to me as selling people. Quirk started off very, very much sales orientated, very sales.
Still.
PTing is very sales orientated. Isn't it funny how much of us ended up no degree, but doing quite well out of sales?
Lynch was a rep for a few years.
Exactly, yeah. And now he's owning his own business.
Selling
no
himself.
matter, you have to sell yourself. Yeah. So it is funny, isn't it, that no degrees, sales.
Yeah, there's probably fucking 1 degree between all those people there.
Who? Lynch? Did Lynch?
Yeah, he has it. That's maybe only him.
Yeah. And like,
all doing quite well for themselves.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm not going to go into too deep into any of them, but
no,
people I really respect and who are doing very well for themselves.
Yeah.
Do you know? Not millionaires or anything like that. Yeah, not millionaires, but
wait until the next bull run.
Like late 20s, early 30s, doing well for themselves. If I had known that, Keane, Joe, if I had known that, and that's like what I'd like to get across today, and all to the podcast is like, don't be fucking worrying that you need this degree or you need that, and the scaremongering that can happen.
And I can speak actually as well from a bit of my own experience. We have that, and I'm not saying this to be condescending or to shit on where we live and where we're from, this part of the country, and maybe just in Ireland in general, but there is a lot of scaremongering, and we're not encouraged sometimes compared to like some places in North America where...
Well, from what I gather, it's pretty similar everywhere. I used to think it was like, it's an Irish thing, like I've talked to Polish people, they'll say, Polish people are begrudgers, or you talk to Americans, they'll say, Americans are begrudgers. You hear Tim Ferriss podcast, and he's talking about that. You know, I think we all have this thing where wherever we're from, they hate this around here, but I think it's just a human thing to be a bit cynical or whatever. I don't think it's particularly...
I'll give a bit of pushback though. There is more, from my experience, maybe it was living in a bigger city, but there's more, they foster, you know, individualism and entrepreneurship, and if you start something that, like, it's encouraged.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's, I don't know the name of it, but I there's a name for what happens in the UK and Australia particularly, where people do begrudge. There's actually a name for it, and there's been studies done on it.
Tall poppy syndrome is one of the ones.
I think that's the one.
That's the Australian one, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, tall poppy syndrome.
Yes.
Like, because if you have a field of poppies, one of them out of every 100 or 1,000 will grow too high and then whack it off.
Yes,
you know?
that's it. Whereas it's not so even for people that, you know, do like consume this or watch this from in smaller towns too, because it's a bit different. Maybe living in a city here is different. You're definitely more opportunity and you're pushed more, but here sometimes it's a lot of, in the smaller towns, you're discouraged a lot from.
It can be, it can be. Again, I've been very lucky to be around plenty of very good and positive people who wish me well, but I've also met, as Arnold says in the 6 Rules of Success, the naysayers. Do you know?
Yeah.
The naysayers do get to you, but it's using that, you know, bit of alchemy and using it to make something good out of it instead of letting it just foster or hurt your feelings too much. You know. So we are right. So then Biggie comes to Claremorris. How the hell does Biggie end up in Claremorris at?
So that basically was I started working a weekend job in Tuam in Valio to pick up
the infamous Valio.
The infamous Valio.
So half of this region seems to have worked in Valio at some stage.
Yeah,
Valio
when you start meeting people from that area, definitely, yeah. The whole town at some point in Tuam was probably employed by Valio.
Allergan is similar. It's just like
yeah.
everyone seems to work there at some stage.
Yeah, these factories. But anyway, I was working there at the weekends to earn a bit of extra cash while I was still trying to build the 1-to-1. I was still not like fully busy at the time. I wasn't fully full up, so I was like, okay, I need another little safety net of cash. So I started working there at the weekends, and that's where I met Biggie. He had seen, it's a funny story.
Biggie, David Shaughnessy.
David Shaughnessy. He tells this story where in the dressing room where we go in and put our coats on for the job, he just saw
white lab jackets.
Yeah, literally the white lab type coats, and he sees around the corner. The first thing he saw was
a bicep.
So he seen a tanned bicep with a tight enough t-shirt, vintage, around the corner before he saw a face or anything, and he was thinking to himself, Jesus Christ, whose fucking bicep?
It's like in Pain and Gain, you know, where The Rock walks in, your man's like, how many grams of protein do you have?
Yeah, exactly.
You're a bro, like,
I can, and I've said this to Biggie numerous
I've
times.
done it many times.
He was the biggest bro.
Yeah.
I fucking spotted him before he spotted me being a bro in the lunchroom area where he's eating. He's walking around with the chest up, the tight t-shirt, the rice, the broccoli and the chicken, and I'm talking fucking pure bro. But anyway, he sees this arm and he reckons it could be, he thought I could have been a Polish guy. Because I was a bit
big biceps.
and big biceps.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, he asked one of the other guys who knew me, did I know who that was? And long story short, he told him that I was who I was. I was a personal trainer. And then anyway, so Biggie came and he came to me to have a chat with me just in my station where I worked. We got chatting, and actually two of us got in fucking trouble. Again, authority, an issue with authority. Some big, let's just say some larger gentleman who didn't smell too good came by and fucking was telling us we were about to work and whatever. So I just said to Biggie, I was like, look, come and take first lunch. There's a first break and a second break. Take it, come sit with me and we'll have a chat and I'll tell you, everything you need to know. So basically from that moment on, our friendship blossomed, and he was in, similar to a lot of boys, he was in university doing something he fucking hated, BIS.
Yes.
It should be, take out the I, it should be BS, fucking bullshit. Business information system bullshit.
Yes.
So he was doing that, and he was very interested in the gym and getting into personal training. So I told him the route I took, and he dropped out after that and went and became a personal trainer. And then
right, so you inspired him to drop out.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I told him.
Tell Liz that.
I told him, Jesus. I told him how it was, and he went and did that, and then he started PT and get a bit of experience in Galway in warehouse, and he did another amazing 12 transformation type groups thing with another.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. He was working in another gym.
Yeah, A12. It was in Ormore, I think, and basically then was it. How did me and you kind of have a conversation?
And he came down to Claremorris, couple of training sessions, things like that, and I just saw the potential in him. I was like, he reminds me of me. He reminds me of you.
Yeah.
Not because he's the exact same personality or whatever, but just because he loves fitness, he's into it, he wants to do the bit of personal training. And I was like, come down the N17 and join the 100% team. And that was when, what I really liked about Biggie was he had the balls to do the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't have the balls. People forget, well, not that everyone's wondering, but like people forget, people close to me, that I had zero social media up until the age 25, 26.
I was going to bring that up. What year?
I was about 25, 26. You could even say I was 27 before I did any proper social media. 25, 26 years old, I was literally like posting nothing and just being like one of those, you know, accounts that's completely nearly dormant besides looking at other people's accounts. You know? So what made me start the social media was a few things, but like Charles Poliquin was fucking 50, same age as Dad, and he had a great social media, right? John Meadows was, you know, an older guy too, great social media, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I at? You know, I'm young, and these guys are far older than me, and they have the balls to put themselves up online and, you know, be consistent with social media content, and I, you know, just fear of judgment wouldn't put myself up on social media. Now, you know, back looking at my early 20s, I hated photos of myself. You know, I didn't like myself in photographs. Might find it hard to believe now, do you know?
I do, yeah.
Like when I opened the gym, hated photographs of myself. Do you know, despite all the photo shoots and everything else since, right? This is how low my self-image was at the time, for one reason or another. So I hated photographs of myself, and on top of that, had no social media, right? And saw what Charles Poliquin was doing, what John Meadows was doing, and said, look, I need to get going on this. And then when Biggie was doing his own YouTube channel, I used to get a great kick out of watching it because I knew him, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember he had the episode where he films you without you knowing, dancing in the kitchen, cooking. Do you remember that? That first time you featured on? Yeah. And you look at people on YouTube and they might only have 100 views, right? But you think like, they're on the telly. You know, they're like a celebrity, and you seeing you, the person I knew, on the telly or on YouTube was just hilarious. So I was like, he could help me run this, you know, social media part, and he could do the PT with you, and I could do the group, and that's where it blossomed. And we changed the name from 100% Fitness Health Performance to 100% Personal Training. Now, I had been reading a good few business books around the same time. One of them was the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing, Big Tim Ferriss recommendation, and that was saying like, one of the strategies was like, if you want to be known for something, be known for one thing. Do you know? So like Dyson does Hoovers, might do loads of other products as well, but everyone knows Dyson Hoover. Do you know? Yeah. I wanted everyone to think, when they think of Kevin Welch, when they think 100%, they think personal training. They don't think group training, football. I might do those other things as well, but they think premium personal training. What difference, what sets them apart from everyone else, USP type thing. So Dave came on board and we went on the personal training.
Yeah, this is 2017.
2017, yes.
Started a YouTube.
And we remember how nervous we were about the three of us working. Remember we were saying like, if we have to survive off like €100 a week. Do you remember that conversation? How nervous we were?
Yeah, I think the biggest, me and you were always like we always had clients, I think, but there was always that chance that like when you're self-employed like that like everything can just go
I've had that fear of no one coming to me and having no clients the whole 10 years. That doesn't go away.
No, but it was a big risk for him because he was moving to somewhere where he wasn't known, and it was almost like me and you probably felt a bit of, because we were bringing him into the circle and into we felt a bit of responsibility that, geez, like if it doesn't work for Biggie, like he's fucked, so we need to, we need to, we almost felt a bit responsible for him too, you know.
And you packed in the value and you were going to give this 100%.
Yeah, which again, his mother wouldn't have been too happy about either at the time.
Understandably.
Yeah. But yeah, he packed it in and fucking went all in.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
The rest is history. It's 100%. It went through definitely a second phase and a bit of a rebirth around then.
Yeah, rebranding.
It rebranding. It just like, so much changed, you know. They got a good lot of equipment around that time too. The social media marketing, like I kind of left you two at it. Remember there was the online branch with coaching as well, and I didn't take any of the online. Like anyone who contacted 100% for online,
that's right.
You or Biggie took them right up until you left for Canada. I didn't take any online clients. I only took them when you left for Canada.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I gave them all to you. But then what was the other thing I was about to say? We started doing the YouTube series. Remember, I did one for my bodybuilding prep.
My first physique show.
You did one for your bodybuilding prep, and the daily vlogs of pricking around. They're so funny to watch back on.
Yeah, like we just winged it really. Like we didn't have any fucking script, no notes.
No, it's almost Hardy Books-esque. You know,
Yeah.
maybe, like, it's just like us winging it around Clemaris, and it just brought in clients. It brought in clients.
It did. Yeah, it did. It definitely garnered some interest, definitely. Especially when we did get a bit more specific, like your physique show series got a lot of attention and people were very interested. Same with my bodybuilding one. Because I suppose no one was really doing that where we were from, at least anyway.
Yes.
It was kind of like, Jesus, like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. What are these clowns that type thing?
Yeah. I definitely got a lot of that. Like, people were definitely though, like,
respecting it,
judgmental in a way, but they're also like curious and genuinely just didn't really know what the fuck it was about. Sure, I didn't know what it was about. I remember briefly going. Do you remember how dreadful I was at anything to do with working a camera, posting a photo, posting a video, you were
editing a video? I could not do a thing. When I look at, when I think to myself how much I can do now, which getting taught by you and Big E mainly at the start, and then Johnny Garvey, like, I think how tech savvy I am in terms of like how to post social media content and create good content and create thumbnails and create photos. Like, I'm actually quite advanced at that now. Yeah, I went completely from zero, and I opened the gym as well with. I didn't eat any fruits or vegetables. My diet was like pretty terrible.
Right. You know, your mother would always say that. It was
like no degree. Didn't eat any fruits or vegetables.
What sort to be useless? Come away.
and couldn't use a fucking laptop, and I just winged it.
That means, like, if you're watching this,
I lived it.
There's so much fucking hope for you. Like, see what he is, how successful and how good he has done with, like. Well, where you came from.
I know. Well, I don't like to paint myself out that I'm so successful.
Well, you've done well.
I've done well, and I can say that I get to do what I love doing, which is a form of success. You know, I don't own any property apart from Bitcoin.
That's
which is digital property. I know, but I don't own any property. You know, my car is just nice and simple, just something I can drive till the wheels fall off. But I have enough to do whatever I want day to day, which is success in its own right. I get to do what I love doing. I get to be around who I love being around. No one has to tell me what to do. So I get that bit of success despite a very, very low base.
We started YouTube, garnered a lot of interest. Do you think the YouTube, actually, just to ask a question on, do you think it got us or generated us clients?
It shocked me. It shocked me when we started doing the social media, just how powerful that was. Now, again, that's another podcast where I could talk for 2-3 hours on the power of what that social media has done. And I've read 4 books of Gary Vaynerchuk's and a good few other marketing books, about 10-15 marketing books in total. And I run off quite a concrete system of how to advertise influencer marketing. And even with my small little following of 1,000 to 2,000 people, the amount of clients I get off it is unbelievable, you know. And if you look at my online coaching, which is completely from that,
you
know, so it just worked so well. It's hard to overstate how well it has worked in terms of bringing clients in the door. It's something I've been pushing on you a lot lately, you know, which is ironic considering you and Dave were the ones who started off in it, and now I'm getting you to kind of do more, or actually you get to do more.
Yeah. It is funny.
So you're with us for 2 years. That's the stage. I do a couple of bodybuilding shows. You do a couple of bodybuilding shows. And then you decide it's time to go.
Yeah. So like I kind of said earlier, I had anticipated or intended when I got back from America at that time when I was only 19 on going away again, and then decided, no, I'll stay put, I'll get in the trench, get better at my craft. And then I suppose when I fell into the bodybuilding in 2016, that led me on a bit of a path, a journey, I guess you could say.
That was certainly in the trench.
Yeah.
That was like Verdun or Flanders.
Yeah. There's going to be, I'd say in this podcast, there's going to be a lot of World War I, World War II references from this history buff. But anyway, yeah, so that kind of kept me around, I suppose, maybe a bit longer than I'd anticipated. I thought I'd only be staying for a year or two and then taking off, but got into bodybuilding and had a goal and wanted to achieve it, and I just, I stuck with it, and it kept me around until 2018. And then when I had done my last show in 2018, and I took a little bit of time away, as in I thought that I was going to compete in maybe 2 years, take a long period of an off season, get better. Then as I got away from it, I kind of had to just reassess my plan and my goals with bodybuilding, and I decided that for now I was content with not going back, because initially my goal was to win a pro card, a Natural Bodybuilding Pro card, and I was pretty close to it. I was maybe 2 places away from it when I was at the Worlds, whatever, and I didn't achieve it. And then I was like, okay, I'll put the head down for 2 years, work hard, improve, and get it. But then I decided that that's not actually what I wanted to do. I decided that I wanted to, Jesus Christ.
Oh my god.
Oh my shit myself.
Chris, get off the fucking table.
Chris.
Go on.
So, yeah, I decided that that's not what I wanted to do, and I pivoted, and I decided that I wanted to move away, to do some traveling, and to live in a different country. So anyway, that's kind of how I'd spent 2019. I remember when the day I decided I was going to do it, move away at least, it was to Australia, I thought originally. I went for
the Gold Coast.
I went for breakfast on my birthday when I turned 23, I think it was, with you and Biggie. You brought me down to Tune.
That's right.
And I remember saying to you boys, I remember saying to you boys that I'm pretty much made my mind up that come next maybe January that I'm going off. I'm going to travel, and it was Australia. It ended up being Canada. I guess I just had this desire that I wanted to move away and experience, we'll say, get away maybe from. I lived a very, very sheltered monk life existence.
I'm going to interrupt you here, right?
Yes.
I remember you said something to me before you went, which I've thought about it a good bit since, but you said to me when you were telling me that you were leaving that you nearly felt a bit guilty leaving the gym.
Yeah.
And you said it was because you feel like you're a loyal person and you owe a lot of loyalty to the gym. So if you decided to go away or head away, I never would have thought, that was disloyal. But what did you mean by that in particular? Because it was obviously a nice comment, but it was heartfelt.
I felt like, generally speaking, I am quite a loyal person, and I felt a loyalty towards you particularly because of the opportunity that I had to live this, to have this life that I had, to be doing what I love doing, to really enjoy it, to never feel like I was working. So I felt almost an obligation that I was turning my back on you, or I was like leaving you and going to pursue something on my own. And I felt, I know, is it just me? That's just how I am. I just felt like I was, that I was like, not abandoning you, but just,
But let's put this in context on how many people, right, join personal training, my personal training gym, but gyms of all kind and businesses of all kind, and all they constantly have the hand out what they can take from it instead of the hand up and I'll do more work. And that culture is just so strong that people come to a business, they want to take everything they can out of it, and then they want to fuck off and either imitate it, they want to copy what you were doing, they want to just say, fuck it, I'm going and I'm doing something different, no loyalty to what people were helping them do. What made you... That was never even an option for you, even though it's the option for most people. They just try and take as much as they can from some sort of project or some sort of mentor or person and just fuck off.
I just felt very attached to the whole, to the process and the gym itself, the project. I just felt very, very attached emotionally. I felt a part of it, and I felt like a lot of, I guess it was just gratefulness as well to you for having me in there and giving me the opportunity. And I just again, it's this moral compass where part of me just felt, I don't know, is it just an Irish thing maybe as well, like a bit of guilt, but
well, that guilt for putting yourself first and your own ambitions and your own wants and needs and desires and interests first is a common thing, isn't it? People do feel guilty when they say, I'm going to do this, and it might be sad for other people, might upset them, might hurt them, but I'm going to do it. How did you feel about that? Because that's difficult to navigate.
I've never, I realised from probably a young enough age, from my teenage years, that a lot of the time, by you being selfish and pursuing your own pursuits, that you're actually going to, if you focus on yourself, you're actually going to in the long run bring a better version of yourself to other people, which is actually quite selfless in itself. It's actually the opposite of being selfish.
By you being the best you can
Exactly,
possibly be,
exactly.
it actually brings more
to other people.
Being a martyr and sacrificing your own wants and needs and desires.
Yeah,
which
so,
does foster resentment.
Yeah. But I guess I realised that, and I was always like, that's why I acted and I still went, but I still felt loyalty towards the gym and towards you. Although I still, it would never, that loyalty never stopped me from making the move, but I guess I just wanted maybe you to know that, and just for to get that across. I suppose as well, like, we had a friendship.
How hard was it
too?
To go to actually just bite the bullet and go?
It was hard. It was hard.
Did you save up much? I know you're not gonna tell me exact figures or whatever else, obviously.
Yeah.
Did you save like fuck? Did you what had to be in motion before you left?
I definitely I had a decent amount of money saved, just as like a safety net for moving away. Like my living costs and stuff before I left wouldn't have been in my lifestyle.
Before you go on there, just on that point, that's where you taught me the most, I'd say. That's where you taught me the most, is how to put your head down, no distractions, and just create so much more value than you actually need. To live off little, to be stoic, to just live off your meat and nuts, meat and potatoes, work every day, save everything, don't be indulging in simple pleasures like gambling, smoking, drinking alcohol, drugs, whatever else. Just get in the zone, work, get in the trenches. 6 months, 12 months, 18 months goes by, and suddenly, you're in a way better position than when you started. Whether that's extra money, extra equipment in the gym, a better physique, the ability to just get in the trench and do that relentless consistency is definitely something you did that rubbed off on me. Whether I was more of an ideas man and a bit more loose, definitely picked up so much of that, and it's been such a positive. That's what you did in that monk mode before. Yeah,
I'd done it for a good few years with the bodybuilding. I guess the bodybuilding kind of taught me that.
It does teach you that.
Yeah.
Especially the preps.
Yeah. But I don't like sitting there either though, and thinking that by doing something like that that it's like
you're hustling or grinding.
I chose to do it.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not saying that it's all painting yourself out to be this the hardest worker in the room, and I'm working longer hours than everyone else or train harder than everyone else. If you have any bit of experience in the world, you'll see that that's no matter how hard you're working, you're way off the hardest work. No matter how strong you are, you're way off the strongest person. But that's not to say you don't work hard.
No, yeah. Just to get back to your question, I saved and put my head down when I was moving away, because I just wanted to have. I always like to have some sort of security, some financial security, some safety net. Moving to a new country, I had done research into like what it would cost me to get up and running in a certain country, so I wanted to have beyond my means of that and to have a bit of a safety net. And then obviously I couldn't foresee the future about what happened, but like I lost my job after 5 weeks because COVID happened. So I was not in a rush, which was a great position to be in. Like at that time, I never really actually spoke about this, but at that time a lot of people who were over there in Canada in general from Ireland, they fled. They shot the togs when COVID came and they went home. Literally, like, and for me that was never an option. Never an option. But
I can't even remember even thinking you were going to do that.
Looking
back now, it would have been a logical thing to do. Well, fuck COVID's here, I'm going to go home and lay low for a while. Everyone's in the...
Yeah, they lost their jobs.
Everyone's not even losing their jobs. Everyone's just going home and working from home and keeping it safe for the next while. I never even thought or considered you were going to do that.
No, and look, it wasn't a consideration, but the point I'm trying to make is that I didn't have to find work. I wasn't in a rush to find work because I had a safety net of cash anyway. But I actually still did. I went and found work pretty quickly because I was off for 2 weeks, and it's probably just me. That's the way I am. I just felt idle and lazy, so I wanted to get back working, as soon as I could. But it was great to have that safety net of cash. So my whole approach to moving away was it was logical and rational, but at the same time, I had no place lined up. an Airbnb booked for 2 weeks, which put pressure on me to find a place, which is probably the best way to just deep end. I had only one job interview lined up for a job that I probably knew I wasn't going to take, but I wanted to just have something set up. And once I got out there, then I just put my head down, I fucking networked, I grinded, I sent out CVs everywhere, I went into places. I remember going into Equinox, which is pretty, very high-end gym. And like, the lady at the reception she was taken aback by the fact that I went in to physically hand them my CV. She was awful, like, she's like, hey, and I was like, hey, I was just wondering, is the manager in? And she was like, no, she isn't, but what's, is there something I can help you with? And I was like, well, I'm just coming in to drop you, just to hand you my CV. I'm looking for a job as a personal trainer. And she was like, no need, you should just send it in online. And I was like, no, I wanted to come in and just meet her in person and physically.
It is amazing how in this day and age, eye contact, manners, standing up straight with good posture, it gets you so far. 100%. Gets you so far.
The impression that I made from just doing that alone, I got like, I was going to get hired by them, but it wasn't. I chose another job because it was a better option for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the whole process, is just going out there. And I suppose, to get back to the original theme as well, I took a risk. It was rational in a way, but then there was also a bit of risk taken.
Well, I backed myself. Yeah, there has to be some sort. You can't just like throw everything on the line and risk losing things that are like risk losing your house or risk losing. But like when I was taking risks, I had nothing to lose. I think you had something similar with going to Canada. It's like, even if you ended up back in Ireland, tail between your legs after 3 or 4 months, was anyone going to really think any worse of you? So you didn't even have a risk in that respect, No. But I've said to numerous people in the last year, I've said to yourself, I do miss the days when 100% was a risk, when it could have went belly up. Right now it's just such smooth sailing. You advertise, you get clients. There's always recommendations or consultations. I'm always full. I can fill the other trainers. It's just, I miss the days when it was just a shed with a few weights, benches, and you were like, oh my God, will we be able to make it? Imagine if we have to quit this and get a real job.
I mean, that was always the line. It was like, Jesus, we'd be fucked if we had a real job. When in fact, the irony was actually that we were working harder and probably longer than a lot of people who had real jobs.
Well, that's something I've thought about a lot, right? Again, I know I keep repeating myself, but I don't want to paint myself out to be this, I'm so hard.
Yeah, I know.
So, like, a lot of people who work hard, but
100%.
The problem is, I think people associate with work they hate with hard work. So if they're doing a job they hate and they're doing it half-arsed, they think it's awful hard because they come home at the end of every day and they hate their boss, or they hate the people they're working with, or they were working the night shift and they're like, oh my God, I worked so hard, I'm so tired. But they didn't actually work that hard, it's just they hated their job.
Yep.
Then you see someone, and we've encountered a lot of them through personal training, they work their holes off, 70, 80-hour weeks, their own businesses.
Over
years, and they're energetic, and they're positive, and they're working so hard and making very, very good money. But it doesn't feel like hard work, or they don't look drained and miserable because they're doing actually something that they enjoy, or a project they enjoy working on. So the stress they have from those difficult projects, at least it's stress that's self-inflicted rather than someone standing over you, like your boss in Value that time or whatever else, So that's Canada. See, 2020 was a very, very formative year for me too. 2013 was a very formative year, as was 2020. So I had a lot of panic and doubts about you and Dave going, because I was like, I'll be fucked without them type thing. Because you did help me with, there was nothing you didn't really help me with. Every aspect of the gym. So I was worried, maybe a bit anxious about you leaving and me being fucked on my own or whatever else. I'd have to do everything by myself, and will I be able to get enough clients? I thought you were attracting a lot of clients to the gym. I might be in trouble without you, but I just put my head down. COVID came, so I lost you, right? I lost Dave. It turns out there was a large-scale cannabis factory downstairs. Right. So I had no electricity in the building, right? No electricity in the building for fucking about 6 months. And I just worked
Anyone
my
sort of shit
whole
themselves
life,
like
right? I was training 2 teams. I was training Mayo Gales and the club in Clare. So I was like 4 or 5 days a week. I was doing the online coaching that took off because during COVID, during those 12
everyone
weeks,
wanted.
I was putting up loads of content. And
You were fucking pumping the
content during thing. Because as soon as football ended and had a bit of time to myself, no football during lockdown, no football, no in the gym personal training, or very little, you know, very, very little. So online football, 2 teams, and then just took off, and I just buried myself in work.
So would you say then that the way that you dealt with the fear and the anxiety of us going was just to put your head down and bury yourself in the work?
Exactly, and that's when a lot of people started saying to me, "You're working awful hard. You're probably working too hard. You're probably doing too many hours." And that's when I had this big conflict with what people are saying about me and my own self-image, and I had to start exploring, why is my image of myself so negative? Why do I think so little of myself? Why do I think I'm lazy? It's like I was working 70, 80 hours a week, and I still had this thing that I'm lazy and that I'm not smart, and that I don't maybe deserve the success that I have, or I don't realise what success I do have, don't appreciate it as much as I should. And that's my perception on so many things just changed when I started going down that rabbit hole. Why did I think that way, you know? So the leaving ultimately made the gym far stronger, because it made me take full ownership, extreme ownership, full responsibility of everything. Everything now was my fault, you know? Now as you're a business owner, you know, everything's your fault the whole 10 years, but particularly then, because I was the only one working there, and it just made me take full responsibility.
So I would even argue the case that in that time period when both of us were gone, you got probably the best results you've ever gotten with your clients.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily. Yeah.
What was that down to? Was there a fundamental change in the way that you did anything with them? Not to get into the nuts and bolts, but just like as a general principle.
No, there wasn't any difference in the type of programs or just
nutritional approach.
Not really. I just ended up getting really, really good results over and over by...
Were you more focused on clients?
I was definitely more focused, I think, and I was definitely more aware, you know? There's a famous Carl Jung quote, "There's no coming to awareness without pain." And I started to realise that, okay, why am I so anxious and so hard working? And why am I so obsessed with trying to be the best, get the strongest, get the leanest, build the business? So I went through a few painful realisations then. It just made me a better, I won't say better person, I'll say better coach, because I was more aware. And I'm just far more aware now than I was back then, you know? Far more compassionate inquiry into myself, and just realised, you know, I don't think enough of myself. I'm way too critical, and you know, I feel good talking about that now, because I know a lot of people listening to this will be able to relate to it. They'll be their biggest critic will be themselves and that known voice in their head. And the problem with a lot of them is they don't even realise that they have that voice there criticising them all the time. You know, and where that voice is coming from, what experiences in their past, or you know. So when I went in 2020, 2021, like to put it in context, I had no savings start 2020. The world goes into fucking lockdown, COVID, all the fucking pandemonium that goes with that. Yeah. You go, Dave goes, the electricity goes in the gym, and everything gets better. Go figure. All the crisis and all the problems and troubles, everything got better. But it's just through graft, you know? It wasn't that I was doing anything different. Wasn't that I was doing anything more special. It was not that I learned this magic bit of information from a new coach or a new mentor. It was just put the head down and focus on graft.
Did you ever find yourself wanting to just bury your head in the sand and just not face the difficulties you were facing head on?
I think I was already doing that, just unconsciously.
Okay.
You know, a lot of the time there's nothing wrong with what you're doing consciously. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing. There's only something wrong with it if it's unconscious. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you say I'm going out for a few drinks tonight to relieve a bit of stress, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't even realise you're doing it because you're so stressed or so anxious or so depressed or so wound up and just need it as a release, the context is very, very different even though the action is the same. You know, so it's not that I changed what I was doing. It's just that I became more aware of, okay, this is why it means so much to me to make this project work.
Okay, and the fact that you were relying
and
solely on
that helps me, because the extra awareness, and that helps me put my problems into context. Because when you haven't got the awareness, you think your problems are the worst problems. You think your problems are worse than anyone else's. You know, when you have a bit of awareness, you realise everyone's going through problems, big, small, large, insane. You know, and that is actually a good thing, because it helps you say, oh, just people are going through a lot harder than me, and they're having a great time. You know, which is one of the great ironies in life. Maybe irony is the wrong word. Is like you have people who are silver spoon, and they have everything done for them their whole lives. And they're so ungrateful, depressed, miserable and lazy. And then you have people who have had nothing. You know, I'm sure I'm going to meet plenty of them in South Africa. Nothing. And they're just so happy, grateful, hardworking, delighted for any opportunity they're given, big or small. You know, that's ultimately, I think that's becoming an adult. That's a huge part of becoming an adult. It's just maturing in that way and realising that you're so lucky no matter what opportunity you have. Because a lot of people don't even have any opportunities. So to have any opportunities to be lucky, especially one where you're working on what we're talking about today, like the 10-year project of the gym. At no stage should I have ever been ungrateful, and I wasn't. I was always very grateful for the opportunity to work on this stuff.
On that, just the 10-year project you mentioned there, I'm just curious, did you have a 3-year plan or a 2-year plan or a 1-year plan, which would say, because the gym is like, no, I don't know if you're going to if you could throw up maybe like pictures while you're talking about, would say, as a shell, but like it took some evolution every maybe like 2 to 3 years.
I had no blueprint of what I was going to do next, or this is what I'm going to get now, or this. Not really. Because I had visited such class gyms like Gold's Gym in Los Angeles and the Marbella gyms, you know, UP and the other ones, Dorian Yates is one.
Yep.
Because I had done that, I knew what a great gym was. And I think that's a lot of trainers, a lot of gym owners, they don't know what a great gym is. They end up buying equipment. This is back to a trainer or a gym owner who doesn't actually train themselves. So they end up creating this gym that might have a lot of expensive equipment in it, but it's a terrible place to train. You know, whether my gym is like, it rhymes. Everything is just perfectly situated for training hard and getting results. Not because the equipment is so expensive or anything else. It's a gym lover's gym. You know, like UP Marbella, like Gold's Gym, and the way everything is situated. So when I was coming from that point of view, I didn't even have to put too much thought into what was coming next. And I always broke things down into 6 months.
6 months, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Tim Ferriss recommended that. And I just thought it always made great sense to me. It was just like break things down, 6 month goals. Buy bits of equipment, might be, you know, do this many posts on Instagram, do this many YouTube videos, do this with the football team.
Financial goals too?
Financial. No, not really, because I never had any savings goals because I didn't save any money. Just everything went back into
the business. Yeah.
Again, start of 2020, I'm actually zero euros saved. You know, and 2020 is not that long ago.
So would you also be a proponent?
And zero euros saved and living at home.
Okay, so would you be a huge proponent then of, if someone is watching this and they're looking to start their own business, like how do you feel about like going to the bank and taking out a huge loan or
No, I talked to Kyle Shaughnessy out of that. Do you remember? So I was very lucky. I got $2,000 from Killian Duffy, the brother-in-law, and started with that and paid him back maybe 6 months around.
So that original investment back 6 months, paid back.
Yeah, and never took any loans since then.
See, this concept, Joe, to the average person is probably
look.
If
I talked about this to Dad. Like, if you are a dentist, you might need some bit of equipment in your thing worth 100,000, some X-ray machine or something like that. So you might have to take out a loan, you know, to open your dental surgery. But like, to me, it's my opinion that like you can do so much with very, very little these days. Not just gyms, and a lot of businesses, you don't actually need this big lump of investment or this big fucking whatever else. You don't need it. You think you need it and you tell yourself you need it. But again, another thing Dad would have taught me was you never let the things you can't do interfere with the things you can do. So if all I had was 3 kettlebells and a skipping rope, I could train people with that. Next thing you had a few barbells. Next thing you had a few dumbbells. Next thing you had, the AstroTurf. It was just constantly building a little bit at a time, but I wasn't over reliant on anything. And that's one of the things I loved about COVID, was I had to write loads of plans and put up a lot of content online of how to train with basically no equipment, just water bottles, a book, and some bands. Yeah,
but a lot of people though would let that stop them from starting something in the first place. They're looking for perfection rather than getting started.
I think that's one of the biggest obstacles in anyone doing anything important, is looking at what they can't do and letting it interfere with what they can do. Like, you have to just put one foot in front of the other. When I was coaching in Garrymore initially, I didn't have a stats man. I didn't have a video analysis person. I didn't have X, Y, Z. So I did it all by myself. I had some selectors, they helped with numerous things. But generally the teams I've worked with over the last 12 years, I've done nearly all the training, a lot of the tactics, a lot of the video analysis, editing videos, drawing out the tactics boards, motivational talks, fitness, strength conditioning. I've done so much of it by myself. And that's a good thing, That's not to say I didn't get any help at all with those GA projects. Obviously, there was other people working that were so helpful, but I started doing a lot of it by myself, and then other people came on board, And you're lucky if you're around people who see you working that hard, they'll try and help you. And that's what I encountered with football. Look, I started doing it by myself.
You inspired people to come along and jump on board.
Yeah. And then it's the same with the gym. I started doing what I was doing, and you hopped on board. Dave hopped on board. I asked Dave, but Dave hopped on board. Brendan nominated himself. He wanted to do PT. So like, if there will be people who do the opposite. They'll see you doing this, taking this bit of initiative, and they'll try and knock it out of you. And they'll try and say that you're going to fail, you shouldn't be doing that.
Haters.
Haters or whatever else. Whatever you want to call them.
Detractors,
naysayers, haters, whatever you want to call them. But like, it's not good to focus on the naysayers more than the people who, out of the goodness of their heart and their own belief in you and what you're doing, like, that's what you should be focusing on. The positive people, the people who are telling you should do this, the people who are telling you, well done, how can I help you, how can I get on board, what would you like a hand with, I see you're doing this, I can do that for you. You shouldn't let a few people talking bad about you interfere with the amount of people who are willing to get on board and help.
So would you say though then, in general,
no matter what you're doing, football, coaching, soccer, rugby, coaching, whatever else you might be doing, opening your own business, whatever, you just embrace the people who are talking positive and don't let the hateful people take away from it.
But do you think that if you're starting something new and you're getting a lot of hate or negative people, that you're onto something, that you're doing something right?
Yes.
In general?
Yes. Naval Ravikant's brother Kamal talks about that, and James Altucher.
Yes, yep.
That if they don't get that feeling of, that little bit of nerves, I wonder what someone will think about me. I have that big time now about the documentary,
Yeah.
The Healthy Obsession documentary. if you don't have that feeling, chances are it's meaningless.
Yeah. Okay.
You're cutting, me and Johnny Garvey talked about this recently, like you're cutting out the thing that is the risk and you're playing it safe. And by playing it safe, you're taking the biggest risk of all, which is nearly more or less guaranteed that you're going to fail. Because, playing it safe, ironically, is the best way to just be average, ordinary, not stand out, and then fail over time. Whether taking the risk, you're going to stand out a little bit more, you're going to offer something to the world that's not being offered currently, whether that's to the whole world or just offer it currently to your own little area.
Okay, so you're doing something right if people are questioning it.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
like I've done crazy tactics with the football teams and crazy training methods and they've gone wrong, but I've also done some ones that went so right, it's like...
But people were saying at the time, well, why the fuck, how, no, this is not the right thing.
Work. Yeah. So you do need to be very, very, very disagreeable, in your personality test. Like do you know the Jordan Peterson personality test?
Yeah, I've never done it, but I know about it.
Well, basically, I've talked about to a few people who know psychology since, and I told them about my one, they were like, that is fucking mad. So basically, conscientiousness, which is how hard working you are, is like through the roof. So I'd spend all day working, which is, I've been happy in my life when I've been working.
Yeah.
I've been unhappy when I've been lazing around doing nothing.
Yeah.
That's just, I'm happy working. Yeah. Then the second thing was agreeableness. Mine is like the 99th percentile.
So very disagreeable.
Very disagreeable.
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
It's like, and wait till you hear this, and it's the 99th percentile of whatever, of openness as well, or creativity. Okay? So
are
remember,
they conflicted?
No.
Okay.
So basically, every personality trait can be good or bad. So it's like you're creative. Well, most creative people don't make any money because a lot of their ideas, while they're creative, they're stupid. They don't work.
Yeah.
Right? So I've experienced that. Most of my ideas haven't worked. I'm only talking about the ones today that actually do work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So when I went, when I was in school, when I was in my home GA club or whatever, and I was coming up with these mad ideas, and I was coming up with, I was extremely disagreeable, saying, I'm doing this and you can't stop me type thing. Like, it got me in so much trouble. But ironically enough, that's exactly the reason why I succeeded in the gym or succeeded in football as well. Like, the fact that I was willing to go against the grain and do something a little bit different is the reason why, I've got, like, in football, yeah, I don't mind saying it on video, but like I've got asked 4 or 5 different counties, junior, senior, intermediate, every year I get offers of clubs to go to inter-county, ladies, men, I get that every single year. And that's because of being the ability to go against the grain. So everything about the football coaching has went better than I expected. Everything about the gym has went better than I expected. Not that I thought it would fail, it's just that I didn't look too much into the future. So if you are doing something a bit against the grain, like this 10-year project I've done with the gym, just fucking go for it.
To put it back to what you were saying then about your personality traits, about...
Now, they're not intelligence. IQ is different. They're just personality traits. And like being a disagreeable person, this is great because I've done well out of it, and this, it's got me in fucking some amount of trouble. Like, I have got in shit so many times.
Did you say
just everyone in the dressing room, like, when they're younger, right? And they're just like, listening to the manager. They know the manager's talking shite.
Yeah.
Right, and they're just like, and I'm just,
you're just like,
what the fuck is this? And my face and my demeanour is just like, you're a clown and I'm not listening to you, And I'm very, very patient with good people who have their heart in the right place. But I'm talking about, I would have that reaction to just arrogant pricks, or people who are abusive towards players and things like that. This is where people kissed ass and did whatever they had to do to play their little game, whatever. I just couldn't do that. It was way too disagreeable, and me and you have had arguments, me and Dave have had arguments, I've had arguments with everyone, just because I can't not say when I think something is wrong. and you put that with the ability to generate some mad ideas. Not necessarily good ideas, but just different ideas to what a lot of other people will come up with. It's just a recipe for conflict. Yeah, you need to be willing to be laughed at or to be criticised or ridiculed if you have any degree of success.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, let's go back to you. Blueprint Physique, what is it? And you're about to head on your travels next Monday.
Yeah. Basically, Blueprint Physique, I don't think I've actually really told you how it kind of came to fruition, but just to put it briefly, myself and Dave were going on it was like a long weekend. It was in August, the end of August 2021, and we're just going, I had the truck from work and we went for a spin. We were going to go somewhere about 3-4 hours, just hit the road, put the tent in the back and just wing it. Going away for 2 nighs or something like that. That was the plan. So we hit the road and we were just the most beautiful drive down to this place we were going to.
It's an incredibly beautiful area, Calgary.
Yeah. So we were hitting out the highway path towards Golden in British Columbia, and I remember we were chatting, and then Dave kind of proposed. He basically was like,
Dave proposed.
Yes, he went down on one knee. You didn't know we were married. We didn't tell people, but we kept it on the deal. So this is my chance. Me and Dave, we tied the knot.
We got it.
Yeah, but basically, he said he had this idea. He's been thinking about, we'll say, he kind of pitched it as a product, we'll say, but he was like, basically to try and, the whole process of, and you can relate to all this, the whole process of one-to-one personal training, and especially online coaching, like, there's a process of trying to, each week when you're calling your clients, you're going through like a lot of different stuff. You're trying to cover like macros, you're trying to cover like the hierarchy of importance with nutrition, you're trying to cover sets, you're trying to cover high reps and like progressive overload and everything,
technique,
steps and activity and cardio and all these questions, and this all this stuff constantly popping up. So Dave kind of just basically said to me, he was like, I'm thinking of this idea of like trying to tie everything together and have it all in one place, where basically it's like where you can reach a greater number of people, and everything is systemized and put together in one place, where the training program is there for whatever period of time is, if it's 6 months, of how to get into the best shape, so to get like as lean as they've ever gotten, like a transformation, but everything else, would say, that comes along with that, with the information of why you're doing what you're doing. So basically I thought about it, and the two of us kind of, I was like, that's a fucking great idea. Almost like, you didn't pitch it as a course as such, but almost like a guide. So we went away, had to think about it, started fucking brainstorming, literally on pieces of paper, and then we just started to like shoot content we started to build it out, I guess you could say. So the whole process took us like fucking 6 to 8 months of just, that was like real head down grind, like get up in the morning and spend all day just fucking working, like whether it's scripting content, whether it's videoing, whether it's like designing different things and all the stuff that goes into it. A lot of shit really that you wouldn't really think would be going into it. And then we decided that, you know, we'd have to like make it like if the two of us as best friends were going to be also like business partners essentially, and how that was going to work and all that stuff. So we went through all the logistics, and it came to fruition. Like, we learned so much, we made fucking mistakes, even with the way we launched, with the way we were trying to acquire leads for even Facebook ads. Like, we made so many mistakes, had to pivot a lot. Only recently, last week, we pivoted again. We changed our name on Instagram to, you know, from Blueprint Physique System, the course, to the actual Blueprint Fitness. A lot of different things. We're also in the process of coming up with tiered systems for it, so it's not just one product anymore. It's now like a 3-tier system. So there's been an awful lot of pivoting, and we learned so many lessons. Like, we thought, you know, one of the biggest things was we were maybe too ambitious, or we thought things would go better than they would quicker.
Don't we all?
Yeah, and we did, and so we're in the process of fleshing a lot of that out. But to be honest, it gave the two of us, I wouldn't say at a time when we didn't have a tremendous amount of purpose in our life, but there was definitely a lot of, we were living in a city, we were definitely socializing a lot, we were, you know, we were living our lives, I guess you could say, with, I still had discipline to some degree. I always used to train 5 days a week, and all that stuff. Like, but definitely we both of us wanted something to kind of give us purpose and to focus on.
Meaning,
yeah, exactly.
But see, that's one of the things about starting your own business. that a lot of people, I think, through Bitcoin philosophy and through my own experiences and things like that, is like your natural state as a human being isn't to be hired by someone else. It's to have your own little project to work on.
Yes.
And I think that's what an awful lot of people are missing. When they don't have that, what do they look for? Short-term pleasure. The vices that we talked about already. Yeah, he doesn't. Like, if you haven't got that sense of meaning, that's what Viktor Frankl and a lot of the existentialists talk about. You just get a bit nihilistic and but if you have that purpose and that meaning because you're working on this project that you think is important to the world and that's going to help people, suddenly this desire for short-term gratification and acting the maggot, for want of a better term, just disappears. It disappeared for me, and that's exactly what you're describing there again.
Yeah. So it came from a place of, like you said, I felt like personally as well, and this answered some things for me that I felt like I could be having a bigger impact on a larger number of people with my knowledge that I have and just my life experiences and stuff in regard to fitness, and then also other stuff outside of fitness. And I felt like I could be having a bigger impact, and I didn't really. That was why I suppose I started writing a newsletter as well.
And what impacts do you want to have with the newsletter, with Blueprint Fitness? What's the impacts you want?
It's a good question. I don't. This probably. I don't. It might sound cliche, but I feel like I can inspire people to do better and to make positive changes in their life, mainly physically, because that's where I have a lot of my experience in. But like we all know that the physical and the mental, they're intertwined.
Yes.
So it's
the physical. When you work on your physical, it transcends a lot of other areas.
100%. So I feel like I can definitely touch a lot of people and inspire a lot of people to make a positive change in their life through fitness. I guess that's kind of been the underlying motivation for the newsletter. I felt like as well, like I was able. I'm able to write long form content, but I didn't have a platform where I was like Instagram is really just about like sex sells. Short captions, thirst traps, and stuff like that. And I found that like I had certain stuff I wanted to write about, but I didn't have an outlet for it. So that's kind of what inspired me to do the newsletter, just to be able to share my experiences and my maybe even just lessons that I've learned. And if it impacted 2 people, then I felt like I was doing something positive. And it wasn't like there was no monetary gain with the newsletter at all. It wasn't about that. It was just about trying to inspire change. And I know it sounds quite cliche, but it's true. Like it is. And I definitely got some. It was nice when I did get some feedback from people where it was having positive impact on them.
Well, I love cliches. They're cliches for a reason. Yeah. But then if you think, so you want to inspire positive change in other people. Okay.
Yes, that's
your mission. You find good meaning in that. But what does that do for you?
I think it makes me feel good about myself, or it makes me feel like it when you help someone, we'll say, without any like underlying intention, you just give to someone because you want to help. I think it makes you feel, it gives you like a feeling, just you feel good. So I think a lot of it stems back to the fact that helping other people makes me feel good. So is that a selfish endeavor?
Well, it's not selfish because it probably comes back to that sales thing again. It's like, oh, sales, it's greasy, or you don't like selling stuff, or you have the car salesman type sales thing. But like, that's if you're selling crap. If you're selling a product that you know and that you believe in and that you know helps people live a happier, better life and see more of the best within themselves, then why would you feel guilty about any pleasure or sense of accomplishment you derive from that? It's mutually beneficial, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just internalizing.
Yeah. It's probably, is it the first time you've thought about that?
I guess
it's kind of like me finally questioning why I'm working so hard. It's similar type.
I've definitely thought about like what drives me, and like what ultimately do I want to want of a better word, like what do I want to be known for, or my legacy to be in it. I've often thought like, how do I reach more people or have a bigger impact on people? And I guess the blueprint, one of the underlying things about it was, at least with something like this that's out there, it's going to be able to impact a broader like amount of people. Because like before that, really, I know that I had impacted like a decent amount of people, but it was really only people that like I physically, or like I got to know either through working with them in the gym or training them online, and had made deep, meaningful changes in their life. But I still felt like I could be doing more. I still feel like I can be doing more. Like I still.
Well, it is. I think you're always going to have a certain guilt if you have the ability to do something positive and you're not doing it. If you are not living up to your potential, you're always going to have that, like, oh, I could be doing more, a bit of guilt, a bit of anxiety. And I forget where I read this quote before, but I've always lived by it. I've talked about it to a few very accomplished people about this quote. It's like, if you have the ability to do something positive, you have the responsibility to do something positive. Because there's plenty of people who can't have the ability to inspire the same impactful change that you can. Maybe they might be able to be their accountant and do their books for them, or plumb their house for them, or bricklay their walls, or whatever it might be, to be the doctor for their kids or for their parents or grandparents, but they can't do what you can do, which is the fitness element of their life. So you have the responsibility. If you have that ability to inspire that positive change or create that positive change, then you also have the responsibility, And I think that's where religion comes in. People don't want to admit. I think that's a very religious thing. You feel this calling to do something positive for the world. People will fight back against that and say, "Oh, you don't need religion to do that." But essentially, that's what a lot of the religions teach.
Yeah, that's true.
It's quite a spiritual thing.
Yeah,
it's not rational or logical at all. It's kind of spiritual. Or
would you agree though that like it feels good helping other people, and like
I've explored this a lot the last couple of years. I think sometimes we want to help people who don't want help. Right?
Oh yeah, of course.
Maybe the client who doesn't follow your plan or whatever. You're trying to help people. So like Gabor Mate talks about, he worked with the addicts, the worst addict area in North America, heroin addict, and he was like, if I'm trying to help these people just so they can get better and I'm their savior, then it's purely selfish. If I'm trying to help them just because I'm trying to ease their suffering so that they can have another day that's just better than yesterday, then it becomes far less selfish. And if they do get better because of my help, good for them, but I'm not going to hate them because they didn't listen to me, because that's very selfish. That's an extreme example, working with addicts, or he's worked with people in palliative care who just aren't going to get better. My mother works in Western care. Plenty of people who aren't going to change their mental state or whatever else. I think there's so much more patience required in just helping someone for the sake of helping them, and a lot more goodness in helping someone for the sake of helping them, rather than this thing of, oh, I'm going to help them and they're going to get better and I'm going to be the one who was praised for it.
Oh yeah, to be honest, that never it's never, for me anyway, it's never like it's never about me. It's not about me. It's like I don't want praise or adulation for helping someone. It's more so like, when you have a client and like they make massive progress, and you're obviously emotionally invested with this person because you see them quite frequently, like you see them on a regular basis, and when you see how much, like whether it's weight they've lost or even just as a person they've transformed, and
Yes.
they're like
Brendan has got a very good taste to this. The last
that genuinely, I think more so like that makes me very, very happy that I was just a part of it and witnessing it and seeing that. Like it's very, again, these all sound like cliches, but it's true. It's fucking very, very rewarding. It is.
And then like I definitely feel that obviously with the clients, but also with the sports coaching, it's very similar, because like if you were to drop dead tomorrow, as a young man in the west of Ireland and you play sport, at your funeral, that's what they're going to talk about when he played sport, and how much he loved to play sport, and how well his teammates thought of him, or how well he was thought about him, or whatever else. So like if I, as a sports coach, am helping people achieve their finest hour on the sports fields, that they never played a better game, that is what they'll remember. Their 15-20 year career, that was when they played the best, or whatever. That was when they felt the most important, they got congratulated the most. You're helping them achieve one of the most special days in their whole life, when their community, when their teammates, when their family thinks the most of them, So you're helping them achieve that. That's a very special feeling. You don't need to get thanked for it. You just know. I helped them achieve that. And it makes your trip through this life feel a bit more important.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, look, we'll finish up Claremorris for the last month. And you thought you'd be here a little bit longer, but you're about to head off.
Would you believe?
Big changes on the way.
It's been actually 2 months since I've been home, which is crazy. It's just over. It's been like 9 weeks, I think. And yeah, I wasn't anticipating.
And you weren't getting like itchy feet where you really wanted to go or anything?
No. I actually genuinely I had my setup of being and coming to terms with the fact that my plan was I was going to stay in Claremorris for the next probably 10 months to a year, and I had everything set out what I was going to do, and I was happy with that, to be honest. And then just an opportunity came my way.
Of PICP?
Yeah, PICP was like probably a big factor. And
you've got Charles Poliquin to thank once again.
Thanks, Charles. And you're up there in heaven looking down on me.
Doing a set of bicep curls.
Yeah, reverse bicep curls. No doubt. Yeah. And the opportunity came, and hadn't anticipated moving this soon, but it just was too good an opportunity to pass, and I definitely have become more, I think the word is risk aversive, since I went away. Before I went away, I was very stuck in my ways and how I did everything, but going away just made me realise that there's so much more outside of your little bubble that you used to live in.
So you're more fluid.
Yeah, 100%. And the fact that I was able to make a decision that quickly and that quick turnaround. So it all happened Friday, and then so Friday would have been, and then I'm moving there 10 days after that, basically. So today's Wednesday, whatever. I'm going Monday the 14th of November.
Crazy.
Yeah, crazy. And some people might say literally crazy. What are you doing? But I just can't pass up an opportunity, and I'm going to take the risk, and and that's how I've kind of decided that not going to live my life recklessly, but I'm definitely not going to miss opportunities that come my way. And yeah, so I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go to Saudi Arabia and see how it works out.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I looked in the mirror there and I saw the posters. One was about not becoming too nihilistic, not having taken too much importance in possessions, Fight Club.
Yeah.
Well, I could talk for an hour on the three of these films, but one is having a vision when it's just a big shed. The Greatest Showman. Did you ever watch The Greatest Showman?
No, I need to watch it.
You have to watch
I've been told
It's one of my favourite films ever. So having a vision, knowing that it looks a bit crazy, but you can bring it to life. And then one is about James Bond. Love James Bond, Casino Royale, taking risks. So I think that's as good a place to wrap up as anywhere. And I think you've done the three of them. and you're in the process of continually doing the three of them, taking risks, not becoming overly nihilistic or too caught up in instant gratification, and creating a few new possibilities out of nothing. And it's a great place to finish up the first podcast. Thanks very much for being the first guest.
It's genuinely a pleasure. It's a pleasure that you wanted me to be on the first one. I'm grateful, and
I've really enjoyed it. I hope this conversation will be helpful to even one person who 10 years ago was similar to us or in a similar situation.
Please God. Kevin?
It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure, my friend.